Welcome to episode 22 of Plat Chat VALORANT, everybody. It's a lovely morning here in Los Angeles. We've all woken up, apart from Avast. He doesn't live in Los Angeles, but we're going to talk
Nor
about...
have I woken up.
Huh?
Nor have I woken up. It's an endless nightmare.
Yeah. Josh was late to the show because he overslept.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell your story about how you're anemic again?
I'm not anemic. I never said at any point that I was anemic. I just
No,
said
you're
that
anemic.
I just said I prefer to have a lot of sleep on a night. Otherwise, I don't feel good when I wake up in the morning.
Define a lot. Define a lot.
Well, just slightly more than average. I would say like 10 hours
10
of sleep.
hours.
It's slightly more than average. That's not. It's not slightly more than average.
Average amount of sleep is 8, right? So 10 is just you slept in a bit.
Actually, it depends on the country. Let me pull up the statistics.
That's also 25% more than the average.
So-
You know, that's an extra that's 2 hours on top.
If we take a look here, hold on.
What are the numbers?
I can find the numbers.
Why would it
These
differ
will tell the tale.
Why would it differ based on country?
So certain countries get less sleep than others. Did you know that?
No, I didn't actually. That seems to make no logical sense to me. Is that just a cultural thing? Like some
Yeah,
cultures
like a
are all right with
cultural
people
thing.
sleeping in?
It is. I'm trying to
Well-
find the bloody stats, but they're...
Why do I feel like France would sleep the most?
So I do know for a
Because you're
fact that
British.
Saudi Arabia sleeps the least
Hmm.
out of any country.
Can't think of a reason why that would be.
yeah.
This is just a pointless conversation.
Average sleep time per
Well, this
country.
is still 10 hours is not slightly above the average, man. You're like I said, you're a koala. You're a koala at that point. You're sleeping for close to half the day. That is not
That's
above
not-
average.
sorry. If 10 is not close to 8, then 10 is not close to 12.
Oh, Josh, you were right. France does sleep a lot on average. They're the third highest on
Wow.
average. They are, on
I knew
average, a citizen in France sleeps for 8 hours and 3 minutes.
What about Spain? Are they up there as well?
Actually, no.
I mean, is this how we
Ah.
bring the viewers in? Is
Yeah,
this
this
how
is-
the
Actually,
listeners
then again-
tune in?
Welcome to the Plat Chat sleep study. Today we're going to be going over the average hours slept. Then we're going to do REM cycles, and we're going to go through there.
It is quite interesting, I think. I don't know.
Well, if France is number 3, who is number 2 and number 1? That's what the people want to know.
And how does this relate to sports performance? Real question. Can
I-
we draw?
Yeah, there could be a
parallel?
correlation.
Okay, so,
Who's number?
Wyatt, I think you peek?
But
Did you see who number 1? Okay.
Who's number 1?
No.
I don't.
You're never going to guess number 1. Give me some guesses.
Turkey,
I'm going to go like,
Suriname.
oh,
Netherlands.
that was a, wait, is that a guess or was that the answer?
It's
that's
it's
just
the
a
Netherlands.
guess. Wow, I'm
The
smart.
Netherlands.
It's
Well,
the
you know,
Netherlands.
that actually makes sense because they're all like 8 feet tall, so they need to sleep a lot to grow.
Uh-huh.
I feel their
What's the
bodies
That
need
second?
to
actually
recover.
makes a lot of sense. I need a lot.
Yeah.
Of sleep.
If
This
you're really
country
tall, you need to
famous-
sleep a lot.
This country famous for its sheep exports.
New Zealand.
Yep, New Zealand, number 2. Uh-huh.
There seems to be no correlation between anything.
No.
I think this is pure random.
I
Like,
think
is
it's
this
just chill, like cultures that are chill. You know?
really? I
Yeah,
don't
New
know
Zealand-
about that.
New Zealand, chill. Netherlands, fucking smoking it up all the time.
Yeah,
France,
that's-
just eating too much carbs, eating too much bread, too much wine. Oh, I must sleep now. Oui, oui.
Well, where's Italy then on that list? Because you would think Italy would be close to like France.
That's what I was saying. That's why I was saying Spain as well.
Nah. Nah,
See,
they're
that's
not.
not making sense.
Not
It's
there.
just a horse shit.
Unless
Yeah.
it's counteracted by like espresso, you know? Because
mean,
every Italian has to take like an hour espresso break every
What is-
once in a while.
What is the first? I guess France is like the first good esport
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
France and then Canada.
Well, Australia's there.
Oh yeah,
You don't want to
Australia.
count Australia?
I've skipped. There are some.
Yeah.
United Kingdom's
Well,
there.
that's like, but everyone skips
Eh,
over Uzi. What?
Mate, fuck it. Let's just
There
start the
appears to be
episode.
no narrative in terms of the correlation of anything. It seems to make no sense whatsoever. It must be
must
a
be
matter
like-
of seconds once you. I think it's pure randomness.
No, it's like there must be some cultural elements as well. Like if they've got a the work ethic in terms of that aspect, right? Like-
Let's write a dissertation I think we should convert this to maybe more of a couple of 5-year-long study, see where it leads us, publish it in Nature, and then after that, we just become scientists and we're saying, okay, bye esports, like we're done.
This is where the Plat Chat funds
So-
are going. Sorry, Moon Raccoons.
100 Thieves.
Winning this one.
100 Thieves have won first strike, North America.
Seamless transition, that one.
Just gonna specify North America because I've noticed that I'm not even gonna get into it actually. Let's just talk 100 Thieves.
Okay.
Bren was
good
about
shit,
to
huh?
mold at the fans.
I was
And
about
then he
to mold at
realized
the
that the
fans.
fans watched the show.
Yeah, I was about to shit talk all of the fans of in general. Yeah.
Yeah, fans, you're stupid and buy our merch.
Yeah, that was I don't know if it was fully unexpected, but it was certainly a I think to some extent kind of an upset result. I mean, I think the question going in was how good would 100 Thieves be in period of time they've
Yeah.
existed?
Yeah.
Because the question was never would they become a top 3 team in NA in my mind. I think that was sort of an inevitability, but
Yeah.
the fact that they've done it so quickly truly impressive.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
If you go back to the announcement episode that we did when this roster got announced, and we did it on Plat Chat VALORANT, I did want to make the claim that they could win first strike. That this team was
Did you make the claim?
on the path.
He just
And
said he wanted
He
to make
wanted
the
to.
claim.
No, but you-
It's easy to say.
No.
You know what? Yeah, yesterday when I was making predictions, I wanted to say that they would win 3. I fucking wanted to. I
Nice
wanted
little
to say
errata.
that Steel would like get a load of really high impact.
Yeah.
Well,
kills
then the
and
real
Arsenal
question:
would
did
get
you pred that
them.
they
I
were
really
going to win? Though,
wanted
Josh?
to.
listen,
Did you pred they were going to win?
Well, that's the
So-
important thing, isn't it? It's the important thing is, did you? Not whether you
Well,
wanted
no,
to. Did you?
I said, I think this team could be looking like they're winning it all. And then you went, oh, and then you went, oh, whoa. Like that was what happened. You
Okay.
guys kind of like tempered me. Like I was a steel
You know
burning
what's
too
so
hot.
crazy. I was actually, you guys aren't going to, on one of the podcasts, it had been episode.
I'm
was
already not
thinking
believing it.
Heretics are going to win first strike, but I didn't say it. But I wanted to say it. I just didn't.
But I did say that, and you guys shut me down. And instead I was like, okay, maybe top 3, maybe top 3. So I settled on
There
top
were
3.
a few people. There were a few people who genuinely did think that 100 Thieves had, were going to take it. And I think there was always the chance, but they always seemed like a dark horse to me because they had a tough run, to be honest. Like they had
Also-
to beat Sentinels, who were the favorites, and then they had to beat whoever came out the other end from TSM and Envy. And honestly, I expected that to be Envy, and they had just been shit slammed 3-0 in a final. by
Yeah,
Envy.
Envy
And
got
I mean, that
fucking
was not
shellacked.
close.
They got shellacked too. That was not a good game from Envy.
Yeah.
It was a
wasn't.
really good game from TSM, but God, it was a really bad game from Envy. I think
Yeah.
it was a rough series for them.
This,
Yeah.
This final performance, though, from 100 Thieves was genuinely some just amazing play across the board. I think every player on 100... I mean, this was the thing going into 100 Thieves. Every player on the team is going to be sick. It's an incredibly well-rounded roster, and that just absolutely panned out. I think that, as well, throughout the tournament, you could see some of the players really finding their place in the team. Like, I think over the course of the tournament, you saw Nitro improve and fit more into that lurking, flanking position on the team, where he was just having immense impact in post plants coming in on flanks. I think Asna's entering got better throughout the tournament as well. I think that he became like he had less and less fear as the tournament went on. And for me, looking at him in this team was one of the most interesting things, because I've been hyped about him for ages now. And I was a bit worried towards the end of him in Immortals because I felt his consistency on the Flash duelists was just not up there with his Raze, which was just god tier. But I think that they're getting the most out of him now. I mean, the roster all around is just insane. Yep.
Yeah, I was mega impressed with Asuna. He popped off. And not just in this final, but he popped off in the game against Sentinels as well. He was able to have huge performances throughout many of their games that were really important for them. I thought that might be the other way around. I thought from watching Dicey and Asuna play in Immortals, I thought it might be Dicey that ended up being the guy that was going to really step up for them and be a big player in these games. And Asuna might drop off or maybe not perform that much when they played against tough opponents. But Asuna was there the entire time in their run during putting up big numbers and helping them get entries and creating space for his team and being in the right place. He's really developed. And
yeah, Dicey is still the most inconsistent of the two youngsters, you know, the two new heads they added to the old head squad. Yeah. I think like it's still like Dicey is just it reminds me of like JMO and Marved still. Asuna I think is like Asuna. I don't want to say Asuna, but I guess you know, the way you guys, I always used to say just Asuna, and then you started saying. You start doing the British pronunciation, then I'm like, well, I gotta say it like that.
It's not a British pronunciation. It's my horrific attempt at the Japanese pronunciation. It's a character's name from an anime, isn't it? So it's supposed to be pronounced Asuna.
Yeah,
Asuna. But I keep saying Asuna.
Asuna. Asuna.
But no, I think it's Asuna.
Sword Art Online thing, you already know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the most impressive thing is the meteoric improvements that his team's had, though, because. We had, I would argue that when we were saying like top 3 when this roster was announced and formed, we were being optimistic because the competition in NA was only getting better and better and better. You had teams like Envy looking like real contenders, Sentinels, TSM. Who else am I forgetting? I mean, I think this was around the time that Immortals
T1 were improving.
Immortals had their honeymoon period tournament, so we were like, wow, Immortals are looking really good as well. But yeah, I mean, just an astounding accomplishment, I think, for this young roster in terms of how quickly they've been put together, not in terms of the age, because trust me, they're punching. Yeah, it's been pretty sick to watch them, and a pretty amazing finals as well.
Avast, I'm not.
Yeah.
It just crossed my mind again. I'm not going to let you get away with comparing Dicey to JMO and Marved.
I mean, this wasn't.
I'm
like,
not going to allow that one to
just
fly past.
I'm not saying his obviously his impact is comparable. I was more saying in terms of the consistency, like in terms of like that's the issues that plague them all is consistency. Sure, Dicey had an incredible performance. I'm not saying that Dicey's on this like a 100% the same tier. I was just saying the consistency issues is the stuff that plagues all 3 of those players.
Yeah. I still feel Dicey is more consistent than those players, though I do agree with the sentiment. I think a lot of it just comes from like the op nerfs, honestly. I think he's just still so set in the sort of the old opping way to an extent where that is really the best part of his play more so than the rifling. So it's harder for him at the moment to find the same level.
It also seems like they're trying to use Asuna more in their strats. Like Asuna is often the one that's actually pushing forwards with the team when he's playing on the Phoenix and stuff like that. I'm thinking specifically in my head of like Haven, where Asuna will constantly be pushing back garage and trying to get flanks or make space in that way. And Dicey's not really. They don't do that many like jet dash executes compared to other teams, and so I think Dicey's impact is lessened because of the way that they use him, as well as just like him as a player.
I also think 100 Thieves in this, like something that's important to talk about too, is that compared to like EU in particular, TSM never played a Sentinel ever. Once, coming through the final this time for First Strike. And then, I mean, I think they did maybe once in like the quals or something, but like they didn't at all throughout the majority of the event and in the final and also in the finals and stuff, while Steel was on Killjoy and Sentinel, or not Killjoy and Cypher, or some Sentinel the entire time. And I feel like his lurking on Sentinel was still so important, and him holding sites and being an anchor for sites was really important throughout the series. And like I think it won them split at times, like with Steel just getting an incredible lurk kill.
Yeah, Steel was insanely good on split. He was easily the best player of that map. And on bind. I mean, he was able to do things with his lurks and just by, I don't know, he's able to peek and hit headshots with such consistency. He was annihilating Wardell And then he was getting picks all across the map as well, just by being really intelligent and then hitting that first shot accuracy on someone's head just to knock them out of the game. He's so talented. And then the setups as well that they had on Split. Bearing in mind that Hiko said in the interview afterwards that they had never played this composition on Split before, and Hiko just woke up in the morning and said, "Hey, I want to play Raze against TSM," because they only figured out that they were playing against TSM last minute. So they're like, "Hey, I want to play Raze. None of our Split gameplay is working. It's our permaban map. We've gone 0-3 on it across the first strike qualifiers with this new roster. Let's just play Raze." And the way that they adapted to TSM and moved around the map and changed their positions based on how TSM were attacking was extremely, extremely good, considering there was no prep work involved. Just all on-the-fly calls and adaptation to what TSM were running. And Steel just outplayed them in terms of how his Killjoy was positioned on the map to set everybody else up. It was wonderful to see.
Yeah, I would be remiss as well if we don't mention the consistency of Hiko throughout the series. The amount of 1v1 clutches that he won on Bind. I mean, just consistent fragging throughout, always cleaning up the rounds. I will be renewing my tier 4 sub at this point.
The tier 4
satisfied
sub.
with his performance. But he did play very well. I mean, he is put in position to clutch out the rounds, and he did with an extreme consistency in this tournament.
And that's sort of what he had to do, though, right? Because it seemed like that was always, especially when he's on Sova, he was putting himself in positions where he's the last man alive to like hold the site and post plant. So like it seems like that's sort of what they want from him when the way he positions.
But it's crazy how consistent he is.
Yeah.
I want to see the previous games as well and just talk through them.
Yeah.
Go through the bracket of 100 Thieves and like their path to get here. Because I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be the bee's knees.
T1 and Sentinels.
Oh yeah. So I mean that was a pretty close game they had against T1 at the beginning. I mean T1 were looking explosive at the beginning of that Haven game. Skadoodle was just popping off, but they were not as exciting on attack, as you can see by the round.
Both teams were bad on attack. I mean, they were just straight up bad on attack, both of these teams. Like 100 Thieves were messing up all sorts of their executes. They were planting mid constantly and then just whiffing when they tried to push Asuna through Garage, getting the wrong timings on all of their flanks. They looked bad on that map. And so I was really worried for them when they played against Sentinels and when they played against TSM in the finals. And they lost to Sentinels on Haven, but Sentinels are really good on that map. And 100 Thieves themselves looked better. And then when they played against TSM, and TSM are normally incredibly good on Haven, they kind of trounced them. So I think it was just a bit of a one-off how poor 100 Thieves looked when it came to that first game of the tournament, first game of the playoffs against T1.
With T1, do you guys think that, I don't know, there was I think a lot of heavy expectations coming into them for this tournament, right? Like they were improving steadily week on week with the qualifiers. I think coming into this, the expectations were really, really high. I mean, do you think that they met them despite losing to 100 Thieves, given the fact that 100 Thieves won the whole thing?
Personally, because seeing where they're at before this, literally just like a few weeks before, and then coming into this event and coming into that final qualifier and such, like I kind of think they met expectations, considering that they faced 100 Thieves in the very first round, of the quarterfinals. Like I kind of for their side of the bracket, like I kind of think that like if they had played like Immortals or Renegades or something, they might have gone a little bit further in this tournament. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, considering where they were a month ago, well, actually, maybe not a month ago, but definitely 2 months ago. 2 months ago, they were pretty trash. I mean, they were frustrating to watch. Their executes were awfully slow. When they actually hit the site, they had no idea what they were doing. The player coordination was all over the place. 2 months later, they are solidly the 6th best team in NA. I mean, they just simply are. They're at that top level, able to compete against the other top 5 teams. You know, the likes of you've got your Sentinels, NV, C9, TSM, and 100 Thieves, and T1 is right there up alongside them, probably at the bottom of the list, but they're right there playing some great games, and they look like they haven't really plateaued whatsoever. They're still trying to figure out what agent does Spider play, what strategy do we have. This bind performance was one of the first times we've seen. Actually, I think it was the first time that we've seen Spider play the Phoenix. And they had a whole different setup where he was trying to farm the ult orbs and play a lot of showers and different executes. It was a totally different bind performance, and they just threw that out for the for the playoffs. This team is going to continue to improve. They don't look like they're on the same meteoric path as 100 Thieves, but they're definitely getting better and better and better.
Yeah, they strike me as a team. They could absolutely get to the point, I think, where they can beat teams slightly above them in that top 5, make it into semifinals. I think that they are in position to do that. And I also think it'll be interesting to see, what they do with Spider moving forward, because I was under the impression that they wanted to move him to Duelist. I thought that was the word
they said
passed
they were
down.
going to.
Yeah, that's what I had heard, was that AZK had said on stream or something that they wanted to move him to Duelist. So I wonder if maybe they just felt like they didn't have enough time to integrate his Duelist on the other maps in time for the finals, between the practice time and the finishing the closed qualifier. So maybe they just left him on Duelist Unbind, where they're already pretty comfortable with that, and they might adjust moving forward. Because I would like to see that just to an extent. I just think his Duelist was just too impactful.
It was
on
nasty.
The
minus the shower lurk Phoenix.
Well,
I mean, he was controlling orb, but like others outside of that.
Yeah, even just aside from his fragging, I think they were getting so much value out of his utility when he was on the Phoenix to an extent, but really when he was on the Raze, I liked his Raze play a lot. I'd like to see them experiment with his Raze on more maps. Really.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they had played any other team, they would have gone semifinals. I think if they had played FaZe, Immortals, or Renegades, they would have won those matchups.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, never interrupt me again. Never interrupt me again. Let's talk Sentinels, because they're the only team that we haven't talked about really in detail.
Isn't the next topic TSM?
Well, I'm going through the bracket.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of 100 Thieves, essentially on their run to go to the finals, I'm just trying to hit every team briefly that they rammed through. So yeah, Sentinels obviously not making the final in the 2-1 finish. What do you say?
They had a rough circumstance, I think.
Of course,
this tournament.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the thing. At the end of the day, it is just unfortunate, and I'm willing to shoot them all of the bail for this tournament. I mean, it's just unfortunate that we don't exactly know where to place them in the hierarchy with 100 Thieves and TSM, because before the closed qualifier, they weren't able to practice because of Sinatra having that eye injury. Now, obviously, pretty tragic circumstances before this one for Shazam, and wish him the best. And they weren't able to practice again for like 2 weeks leading into this. So
this game was also incredibly close,
and
that's the crazy part. It was close,
close. Like, I think really a lot of it came down to me was just the bind map, and I think that honestly, given more time, I wonder if Sentinels would have continued to feel comfortable with this comp, with Sick on the Raze, because this is the only agent so far that I don't think Sick looks entirely comfortable on. Like, I actually liked his Sky a lot on Icebox. I was really enjoying Sick Sky. But I wonder if, given more time, maybe that's something they would have looked at and felt like they should have changed, or who knows. But yeah, for me, I'm going to shoot them the bail on this one, and I'm not really going to factor this one in, because at the end of the day as well, like, moving forward, if they do start slipping down and they start finishing in 3rd, 4th consistently, then that's just what it is. And if they continue to win, or rather they start winning again, then this tournament is just like a mulligan. It's just, this one doesn't even really count if they're just right back on top, right?
Yeah. I think that this series, though, is extremely interesting, because something that we've said for a long time about Sentinels is that they have an incredibly well-rounded map pool. Like back when Sage was in meta and they were winning ignition events, there was no map that they were bad at. It was Haven for a while, and then they fixed it up, and now it's actually one of their best maps. And coming into this series, I think their map pool got exposed a little bit against 100 Thieves. The way the map veto went, I mean, obviously 100 Thieves are going to ban Split against Sentinels. Sentinels are one of the best teams in NA, if not the best at Split. And then for Sentinels, you get in a position where you're probably forced to ban Ascent because it's both 100 Thieves' best map and arguably your worst. And that leaves you in a position where you're playing the 3 maps of Icebox, Bind, and Haven, of which Bind is Sentinel's second worst map and 100 Thieves' best. So the map pool matches up really well here for 100 Thieves because they have 2 maps that are at their best in the map pool and Sentinel's worst. And so it forces us over to Icebox. And really, to me, less so than the Bind gameplay, which is like, okay, Sick does look uncomfortable. They have some work to do there. I thought this game, looking back on it, came down to Icebox performances because Sentinels were gassing themselves up, saying that they had a really good Icebox. In theory, it really fits their team as well. They like to play at a high pace. They have a lot of really good fraggers in terms of like just taking aim duels across the map. I thought that this would be a really good map for them. And if they had squeaked out the win here and it ended 14-12, then they just simply win 2-0 because Sentinels will win on Haven against 100 Thieves. So had they won Icebox, we would be looking at Sentinels in the finals and, you know, potentially winning the tournament, and we wouldn't have any of these issues. But this map is still not figured out by any team in First Strike. I've watched a bunch of different regions, and I quite liked the way that Europe was playing it, but it was quite slow. I thought Cloud9 Korea played it quite well against Vision Strikers. Aside from that, I haven't watched all of the VODs yet, but aside from that, it doesn't look like anyone really has a great idea of how to play Icebox.
I did not like how Immortals played Icebox. I will tell you that much with certainty. I did not. How do we feel about the Sky in particular? Because they had Sick play Sky. We saw Sky get used a bit in First Strike on a couple maps, not just Icebox. And I felt like we discussed this like during the co-streams, but we felt like teams were trying to use it as like a Sova replacement almost with Sky as just something to like get some utility. But I think the more I thought about it, teams have sort of where it's had the most success with Sky is that maps that don't have a lot of really wide spaces where your recon dart can clear a lot of area because there's so many corners. I think Sky replacing Sova is better because of the fact that you can send your Tiger or your birds or your tumbleweeds or whatever the hell they are, you know, into their various into all the corners of the map, and because it gives you the hit marker of when you clear someone there, then I think that's why teams. I think it was like, was it TSM that played Sky on like Bind?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was.
And I actually think that makes a lot more sense in terms of like when you think about what the differences between the recon dart utility and Sky's utility are. Like you prefer to have a recon dart on a very wide open map like Haven, or even Ascent, as opposed to something with a lot of corners like Bind or Icebox. I think.
Yeah,
so
no, I
kind of like that.
Like a lot of Sky's kit is information gathering. Like when you flash somebody, she screams an audio cue to let you know that she's flashed somebody. Yeah, yeah. She's got the little wolf character. He runs around. That's a little drone.
It is a tiger for sure. I wrote it down. It's a tiger.
It's a Tasmanian.
It's a Tasmanian tiger or something. It's not actually a tiger. It's not literally a tiger,
but you know.
So when you say it's literally a tiger, it's not literally a tiger. It's an animal that.
But the ability's name is a tiger though.
Right. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. The ability's name is called
the species itself. I think is more on the canine side.
But it's more like a thylacine, isn't it?
It is a thylacine, yeah, but I think that's closer to canines than it is dogs. Sorry.
Actually, no, it's not called the tiger, the utility. It's just called Trailblazer. So, but it's listed that it's a Tasmanian tiger. Yeah.
All right, let's look this up. Tasmanian.
Yeah. I think just dog will do, honestly. Don't have to overthink it.
Tasmanian tiger.
No, but we're going to go back into the phylum and genus classifications of Sky's various animals, and we got to then submit that theory to nature.
Yeah, Trailblazer, control Tasmanian tiger. So it's not. So I mean, dog is actually closer to a thylacine than a true tiger is, though.
Sure. That's what I was wondering.
isn't it?
Well, I'm looking this up now.
Okay, then once
This is what
again,
I'm-
Wolf is the only one that's completely wrong.
Right. That's just a Spike Rush misconception. That is, isn't it? Am I wrong?
I think,
it is,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
well, also, I mean, when
The
you
wolf
look at
form.
it looks like a wolf, not like a tiger. So
Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
physically
or a
look at
dog. Looks like a
yeah,
dog.
or a dog. Let's just start calling it. Let's call it Fido every time that they
Tasmanian
use
tigers.
it. Pooch.
Despite their stripes, look a lot more dog-like than a tiger. But dogs and Tasmanian tigers, also known as thylacines, split away from each other over 160 million years ago,
So
and are
dog
some of the
is not
most
correct.
distantly related animals and mammals.
I like that we have the picture of the Tasmanian
Yeah,
tiger.
this is so. Apparently, they are they're not even related to dogs. They're just like they're incredibly far away from each other in terms of the way that it diverges.
Huh.
Their striking
Are they
resemblance
Okay.
is one of the best examples of convergent evolution. The idea that animals might take different evolutionary pathways to reach the same destination. Species
This is
end up
going to be on the
evolving-
test, viewers.
It is
take
gonna be on the
notes.
test.
This is going to be on the test, so make sure to take notes.
Species end up evolving similar structures or features to solve a similar purpose or make use of a certain resource.
Now you're just explaining convergent evolution. You're not explaining anything about Tasmanian tigers.
But it's interesting. Let me finish my point without being evolutionary
point.
closely related at all. I think that's quite interesting.
That is. That is.
I like.
So there you go.
Let me finish my point.
I'm looking for the guest lecture in a Bio 101 class, Bren. It's going to be really
A
good.
lot of people pay a lot of money for that, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
In school, things like that. You know, school. You guys ever been to school?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanted to say something,
Okay.
Josh?
Go on. So what were we
Where are we
talking
where are
about?
we taking
Sky
this?
and replacing
Hey, we're
Sova.
talking about Sky.
hell are we
I
taking?
don't think though that TSM got a huge amount of value out of the Sky on Bind in the finals. I think that the idea is all right, but I don't think it really. I think
No.
you've got to really cook up some
Well-
shit in the lab in order to get value out of it. Plus, I don't think that the Sentinels comp was the best for Icebox either. I don't mind the Sky. I think it makes sense, but I question why you have a Sentinel alongside it like the Killjoy. I think if you're going to commit to Sky, you should probably full commit to running triple duelist or something alongside it. And although that will lead to you being a bit limited on your defense because you don't have like an alarm bot to watch kitchen or something, you, I think, have to kind of full commit to a composition like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I do agree.
I don't think you have to have triple duelists. I don't think
Yeah.
you have to have triple duelists.
I do agree. I think that for me the issue with the TSM one on Bind was just that their setups were not ideal. I think like playing so close in hookah, they were just constantly doing that double hookah setup, and it was just getting exposed by the 100 Thieves utility. But I think that I thought that I actually liked the comp from Sentinels on Icebox. I liked how they're playing the map.
My only issue with it is that when they're attacking, I feel like you get huge value from being able to sky flash and have a bunch of other people really fast execute into the site and kind of trade each other out. And Dapper was getting involved in that a little bit, but I think if he's got the flexibility, you can get a lot of value on attack from playing agents that aren't Sentinels, or even on a Cypher a little bit more, because you can trip the flanks and push rather than have a turret watching behind where you have to stay within 40 meters of it in order for it to remain active. It just seemed like he was getting snarled up on that a little bit when they were on their attacking half.
I think that is one of the fundamental problems with Sky, right? Is that you can't. It's a lot harder for her to follow up on her own utility compared to Sova. Like Sova can like drop the dart and then try to do something with that, like off the information, and like, but Sky has to sit there and channel like a druid in WoW and sit there and just like and like actually have to sit way back so you can't punish them too, because like some people, I think we even saw it a couple times where like the Sky would be sitting there like trying to use the utility and someone would just like catch her when she's warging and just like freak her out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk TSM instead of that. Because they made the finals, but they didn't win it out. A pretty good run though from TSM, a team that I think I don't know. Myself, I was pretty. I had pretty low expectations for TSM coming into the First Strike event as a whole. I think them coming second is, for me at least, from my point of view, quite impressive. I ain't no simp. Listen, I didn't really think they were going to be winning at all, especially after the operator changes, which I mentioned pretty often. But they did make it all the way. Now, would you argue that their path to get here was harder than 100 Thieves?
Pull up that Bren.
I'd say no.
Ken.
I'd say no for sure.
I would say easier.
Well, I don't know whether.
I would say if
don't know
Envy showed up, it should have been equivalent.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Had Envy played their game, playing against Envy is no slouch. Like, I think that game would have been extremely close. In fact, I don't know who I would have favored. I think I predicted Envy at the time.
Yeah, I would have picked Envy at the time too. I just think
not-
Envy beat.
Wait. So I want to ask you guys the question. Do you think that game was a case of Envy not showing up? More
Yeah,
so
I
than
think it's-
TSM
Yeah,
outplaying?
100%.
Really? I thought that TSM were just playing I mean, I think to an extent, Envy were playing a bit too safe. It seemed like they were not playing
Envy
with
was
a lot of
saving with
confidence.
4 people alive at points.
Yeah, that's why I don't think they were playing with a lot of confidence, but I think TSM just fully outplayed them in terms of utility usage for map control. I mean, they just dominated Ascent.
Yeah, but also I think that a lot of the plays that Envy normally like to make were not working because their players were scared and whiffing compared to TSM's players who fucking leveled up in that game. The way that I would expect the game to go usually is that Envy have enough firepower to be able to match TSM. And TSM rolled them over. They absolutely destroyed them.
Yeah.
And part of that is definitely the TSM players stepping up to the challenge because those guys level up when it comes to big playoff games. In fact, if you want to knock TSM out of a tournament, you do it in groups before they've had a chance to like truly get into the flow of things. But yeah, facing TSM towards the end of a tournament is nasty. But I do think that Envy flopped. Yeah, I don't think they really got anything that they were doing going. And when their players were like holding angles or pushing in to get aggressive, they were not hitting the shots that I would expect them to normally hit either. They looked like they were scared towards the end of the series as well.
Yeah.
They weren't willing to challenge certain positions. Yeah, I just didn't think it was
like a bit of both.
No, I think it does. It always
think it
runs
was.
both ways with good teams.
Yeah,
Like
'cause-
with bad teams, you can very clearly say like, oh yeah, this team was way better, this team was way worse. This is just it runs both ways. But
I felt like there were Sabrosa in some circumstances, right? He's a pretty intelligent lurker. Like he always finds good opportunities when realistically other people shouldn't be able to, but he was getting them pretty consistently. I don't know if it was necessarily in this series, but I know
I mean,
at various
Sabrosa's
points-
split was fucking nasty.
Yeah,
I thought his
So-
Ascent was so his Ascent was so good.
but also some of the guys that we wouldn't really consider to be like the fraggers of the team were just hitting shots. Like Cutler was coming alive. He was having flashbacks to 02. He was being possessed by his younger self at times.
New old
you know?
Cutler.
Yeah.
Was this the match where Cutler was this the one, or I
Got a
can't remember? It
bunch
was
of
one
shock
versus where he had like 3 shock dart kills and like it was crazy.
No, dude. Honestly, if you're hating on Cutler in late 2020, fucking
Get
see
out
ya,
of
man.
here.
Dude, Cutler's
He's probably the
looks-
most underrated player on TSM, I think, in terms of how he sets up this roster right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've definitely found a good role for him as well in the leadership. I thought it was interesting in the interview after I think it was this match with Hazed. He was talking about how they like having Cutler as the leader because he's just an incredibly calm guy compared to the other guys on the team who are like popping the fuck off when they win rounds and screaming, and he's just a very calm leader. But also aside from that, which I thought was interesting, is his gameplay is just so much better now.
It is.
I mean, he just strikes me as a player at this point who, he was a solid player in CS, and switching over, it just took him a bit to get comfortable and adjusted to the game to some extent. Where I think other people have sort of just had an easier transition. I think that the Sova is definitely a better role for him as well.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the roles. I'm still a little cautious about TSM when it comes to like their longevity as a team together, but I think they've done a fantastic job of finding something in this meta, in this patch, that works beautifully for their team. Putting Cutler over to a pure support role, I don't mean that in terms of he never gets kills, but I mean his job on the team is to set up normally Drone and Wardell, but sometimes Sabrosa, with his utility. He is flashing every time they go for a peek when they know there's someone there, or he'll flash to be able to let them peek for information. When he's playing the Sova, he's gathering information and setting up, delivering that over to Sabrosa so that he can go in incredible lurks. He's really at the position in the team, like the whole system of TSM revolves around these three duelists being set up by his information and his utility. And then Hazed is there to be able to also monitor flanks and help out watching and keeping map control. And that is just such a great role for TSM to have. That fits how they want to play. If it's their player styles, if it's their strengths, it's perfect for TSM. I don't know whether there's any other team that would be better playing triple duelist.
No,
it's like a more evolved second. It's like the next Pokemon evolution of like C9. Like I think, in my opinion, I think it's like a better functioning C9 in terms of like you have more players that frag, and then you have like one very strong supportive player with Cutler whose utility is like so good that it almost always allows them to get in.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent idea, actually. I think that's what Cloud9 have tried multiple times, but they just can't quite make it work.
Yeah. Drone as well had just a sick tournament. Well, I mean, once you throw Drone back on the Phoenix and he can kind of just do what he wants, just have the freedom to make plays, he is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
he
were
just has some of
cooming
the
over
best game
his
in the game.
run it backs the entire time.
I mean, look at
Josh
this
in
one.
particular.
Every time he pops run it back, he forces the enemy team to make a decision of whether or not they want to challenge him and where on the map they want to challenge him in order to get the best crossfire or something to take him out without receiving any damage. And with that like indecision in your opponent's head, he barrels forward, and it just always seems like he's aim locking whenever he pops his ult, because he'll just whip around a corner straight onto someone's head, and as they're hesitating, wondering if they're in the right position to be able to challenge him, he just domes them immediately. He applies so much pressure to his opponents because they're scared of taking 1v1 challenges against him in those situations, and then he beams them down. He's so good with the ult. I feel, from watching more of Drone and then also remembering how good he was previously, I feel like you have to say he's the best Phoenix in the world. I know that Sinatra is incredible when he plays it as well, but nobody's been able to do it on so many maps in so many different situations, gathering so much different value for their team. Drone's he's insane on that agent.
Yeah.
I feel like at one point teams are going to have to adjust though, right? To like the style of Phoenix play that Drone plays. Like eventually you have to just stop being so afraid of taking the 1v1, right? Because sometimes it's not even him being like set up with utility and getting to the site and using it to just get as deep as he can. It's just him popping the ult, knowing that he has an opening and just going.
Yeah.
So I feel like at some point teams are going to have to like adjust to that and like not just let him run into you and hope that you win the 1v1.
Pretty good finish.
I mean,
DSM.
Even that's tough.
Yeah. What are our expectations of this roster moving forward, real quick, before we move on?
I think they should be in the top 3 conversation for a while, honestly. I don't know if maybe I mean, it's tough to say a year from now, like when we get to the Champions Tour finals. But
so much can change.
So much can change. But I don't expect this roster to really drop off. The skill level is way too high. They have really competent team play. I don't see them exiting the top 3 for many months.
I could see them. The only world in which I see them exiting the top 3 is if Envy or Cloud9 level up and kind of get above their level, because I think Sentinels and 100 Thieves, even with TSM playing at their absolute best, Sentinels or 100 Thieves can beat them. And so they're going to be in the top 3, but not necessarily at the top of the top 3. So if Envy actually performs at the level where we've seen them in the past, where they look like they're really good, they didn't turn up at all and weren't able to put up a close game against TSM in this semifinal. But if they're able to get back to that level and consistently perform at that level when they play against the top teams, then maybe Envy could get there. And if Cloud9, shake things up or find a system that works for them, then perhaps they can overtake TSM as well.
Yep. Cool. EU, European Union.
European
Yep.
Union.
What
Yeah.
a crazy place, huh? Heretics have won European First Strike. They upset G2. They upset, let's be real, Team Liquid as well along the way.
Yeah.
Pretty astounding. A couple of things. I just want to set the groundwork here. You reap what you sow, European Valorant scene, because this is the result of shit tier formats, not broadcasting any games, and you're left with a very good finals, I think, in the form of like SUMN versus Heretics. But the amount of people I saw being like, "Oh, I don't really care. It's no one I know in this finals." Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because you didn't broadcast any of the games. You've got no narratives really for these teams. The poor commentators don't know what the fuck to say because they've got no game tape to review. Like, this is like, yeah. I mean, congratulations, obviously, to Heretics for winning it all and like upsetting all expectations to even get to this point. But it's quite unfortunate that your story couldn't be told better. Is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah. Well, I think the defining part of that is whether or not Heretics versus Liquid really was an upset. We said last week that it might not even be an upset, that Heretics might actually be favored going into that game if we had more game tape to be able to look at. But with Liquid's new style, we had only seen one match of theirs being played against Prodigy, and then the Heretics themselves, you've only seen them play against tier 2 teams because they haven't actually had a chance to play against any tier 1 teams apart from, like, I think it was a BO1 against NIP or something a month ago before they came into First Strike. So you didn't really know like how good Heretics actually were. With the power of hindsight, I don't think that was an upset. I mean, if you're actually going to label it previously, if we see more from Heretics, I would expect them to be above the level of Liquid.
If there was more
generally
than
speaking.
like 5 hours, if there was more than like an hour and a half of gameplay footage of Heretics before this, and it wasn't all against random Spanish tournaments where they played the Banana Men and shit like that. I don't think that was the name of the teams that they played. But the point is that like there was no footage to watch of this team, especially versus good squads. There was none. There was just none. And so I honestly had no read on them like coming in.
Yeah.
But I agree with Josh in saying that like this is not, in hindsight of where they really were coming into the tournament, it's not an upset.
It does. Yeah, it does just produce this like mad discussion over the course of this week as well, where for an enormous amount of fans or casual EU viewers or just people who are trying to tune in that have never heard of Heretics and they see Liquid, it's this mad upset. Who are these guys? How did they win? Like, okay, I kind of recognize a couple of the players from, like, they were pretty good in CS, and then they just come in and beat Liquid with Scream dropping 400 frags. This is a mad upset. And then they beat G2, and then they win the tournament. It's like, oh, okay, so they're actually just a legit top echelon team. But it went from them being this mad upset to like, oh, I never mind, they're just like really good in like 2 days because it's just chaos.
If you don't mind, Kurt, as well, I want to talk about the Liquid business, whereas like essentially there was a kind of common theme I saw around the Heretics Liquid game, which was the common opinion from social media, whatever, was that Liquid need to drop their entire roster and just build around Scream. Basically, making parallels to Cloud9 with Tens or like older 100 Thieves with Hiko. And I can understand this point of view because, for one, it's mainly Americans who don't watch Europe. So they don't know, right? They don't know about these teams. But two, it's also the scene hasn't been set. Like, they don't know. We also didn't know how good Heretics could be. But it's especially true if you don't really follow EU at all and you just see the name value of Scream and Liquid and the attachments you've got with that. Generally speaking, I think a lot of fans as well apply strength based on what org they are signed to as well, a lot of the times.
Yeah.
They kind of equate the two on the same level as opposed to just like looking at the players and the game tape. But this was the overarching opinion that I saw online was that Team Liquid needs to blow up their roster. When the answer is No, Timmy.
Yeah,
They don't.
no, I mean, the most annoying part about that, I know there was like a really popular Reddit thread about it as well. Although, to be fair to people who were watching online, the most highly upvoted comment on the thread is arguing against the topic of the thread being that they need to make roster changes.
Sure.
But then there's a lot of people arguing both sides of it as you go through. So it's clearly a fairly common opinion. But what made it so awful to me is that Soulcast came out of this series, and let's be honest, Soulcast played a bad bind. It was the final map when he played against Heretics, and he didn't play up to his standards. He dropped, I think it was like 5-25 or something like that.
7-21.
7-21. So not quite as bad as I said, but still, that's pretty poor. And when you watched the series, it just seemed like, especially when it came to bind, him and Link had lost a lot of confidence, and they weren't really willing to take aim duels against the Heretics players. There was nothing that he did that was actively throwing or feeding. He just wasn't having the same impact that he normally would when it came to his fragging. And people reacted to this bind performance by sending Soulcast so much hate online. And I think this guy overwhelmed by it. He put out some tweet where he was just, I mean, he's already sad that he's been fucking eliminated from First Strike in what is perceived to be an upset result against Heretics. And then he's also a player that doesn't have the most experience playing at a tier 1 level in terms of the attention that's on you when it came to his CS career. And he's also never really had a bad series that would warrant him getting any hate in the past.
I mean, Soulcast is a class player. I mean, he is excellent. His raise is excellent, but yeah, it is just.
He tweeted saying, "Imagine having hundreds of people, messaging you saying you should get kicked, and probably thousands in Twitch chat saying the same. Can't hold myself together right now. Appreciate it, guys." Because he just felt like shit at the end of that, because not only did he have a bad performance, but then he was witnessing the fucking crazed overreaction of a bunch of fans who have no idea how good he normally is.
And also, for additional context with that loss to Heretics, who won the tournament and beat G2, Liquid absolutely could have won that game. Dare I say bind 100%. At the end was, I don't want to say it was a throw, but they lost a 2v5 where Scream killed 3 guys right at the beginning of the round.
That was
tragic. That was the round losing, the game losing round, rather. That was the one. Because there was a string of like 6 rounds in a row where Scream got one, if not multiple, defensive entries just off flash plays. It was ridiculous. And the 2 rounds they lost, it was a 2v5 and 4v5, where Scream got 3 kills immediately, and then the next round he got 1 kill immediately. And they lost those 2 rounds. And the 2v5, you can't, I mean, you just can't lose a 2v5. And aside from that,
with the 2v5,
they were winning all the rounds.
The thing is with the 2v5 as well, Scream gets those 3 kills and immediately just ints in hookah. Like, it's a 2v5 and Scream is just in hard carry mode, where he's just like, I need to make plays constantly. And so he gets those 3 kills, which is obviously amazing, and then just runs it into hookah and dies immediately. So it's then a 2v4 where the Heretics players make some ridiculous plays to be able to win that. So I agree that it's unlosable, but there's a yin and a yang when you have Scream in hard carry mode, is that he's going to deliver you big kills and he's going to drop these enormous frags, but the style of the team gets totally messed up. And it's not Scream's fault by any means, but it's not like the narrative online is that Scream drops 40. How the fuck are they not winning? Yeah. It's not like Scream is just playing his position but doing it so much better. They're actively changing the style that they play in order for Scream to drop 40 to try and hard carry them. But he's taking so many more risks, and like the other players are not in the positions that they expect to be in as well, and they just get rattled as a result. It
also ignores that Lowell might actually be one of the best Valorant players in the entire world.
Oh,
Lowell is so... Yeah. That 2v5 wasn't it was one because wasn't that also the round where Scream, he instant hookah, and then Lowell gets like 2 frags and then hits the res on a Vova who has ult.
Yeah. Yes.
And they were able to stop it. Like,
and the 2 frags that he got
on stage, It actually made me coom like the entire first strike.
I mean,
the two frags he got were on people trying to double swing him as well. They tried to double swing out to be able to take him down, and he just sprayed through them, which was a mistake from Liquid. They should have had the low health player go first. He was at the back, but
do we want to get more back into the Heretics discussion?
I'd like to get into Liquid more.
You have more to say?
Because I know what the fuck. I know what the fucking the consensus is going to be online after Josh's comment. Despite the fact that you mentioned, Josh, like how they're setting Scream up to get these kills and make these plays, and I know that people are going to be like, "Well, you're just criticizing Scream for getting kills." Like, how does that make sense? No, okay, bring up the UK fucking the Union Jack. All right, yeah. God save the Queen, all that. But
I think pack shooter fan narratives are just really one head, though. Is the thing. This is something that's in CS too. Is it like? People like Twitch Timmy's just like, oh my god, but this player got 4 kills. Other players not win.
Yeah.
Other players so good, team so bad.
It's the scoreboard,
Stevens.
dude. It's the fucking scoreboard.
It's scoreboard Stevens. I've said this before, but it is the scoreboard Stevens. Kurt.
It is.
I've made this point before, but like when with you guys coming from Overwatch and not that game not having a scoreboard, I think people are way less confident in the opinions that they're just throwing out there all the time. Where when you get a scoreboard and you get to see he got a lot of kills, he didn't, so he good, he bad.
Yeah,
and it's just
and that is it. That is the definitive written in stone text. Fucking brought down from God. Like no receiving the commandments. Was it no received commandments? I can't even remember.
No, but we'll run with it. No. No, Moses.
That's the character. Yeah,
Moses,
that's the guy.
from Mount Sinai.
Yeah. But for real, like people, they don't. I swear to God, people make opinions and they haven't watched the game. They just look at the statistics and they're like.
It happened to Raucus too in North America.
Yeah.
We were like, I don't remember which map it was. Now, granted, Raucus did not have a good performance. I think taking him off of his Sova was so much better than I think he was playing Omen.
He was playing Omen.
Yeah, and his Sova in the quals was actually pretty good. His Sova was actually like not bad at all. And then we played Omen, and it wasn't nearly as good as a Sova. But then there were the times where FaZe, especially on Split, where like they would try to do Vision Strikers plays, and they would run 3. FaZe would hold hands and just Red Robin down mid and just die. Like all of them would die. I mean, and then Raucus would be there taking 1v3s with his dick out and it'd be like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, of course your stats are gonna be terrible.
When FaZe are losing a game, Raucus is just set up to look terrible because he's in 1vx's all the time because it's just his teammates pushing every single round, going for every kill. But that's
the main takeaway from this is. I think if you're a listener listening to this and you immediately felt angry at these comments that we're dishing out, that's a sign that you need to self-reflect and think more, I think, when you're talking. Just
it's
in
like
general.
a self-help Plat Chat.
So to kind of clarify on some of the comments I made earlier for Scream, though, he had an insanely good performance, and he is one of the best fraggers that they have across Europe. There's no doubting that. But there's a difference when you can see an observable difference with Liquid when they play their style, which is what they did on Split and Ascent against Heretics. On Split, they were trying to, flash and dash Scream into positions all the time, set him up for a lot of kills. They particularly like to do that in mid and B Heaven, where Eccles and Scream will work together. They have a lot of good coordination. This is the whole reason that Scream is on Jett in the first place, is to do these flash and dash plays that Sliggy really likes, who's their coach, and Eccles is setting up because he's playing the breach. And on Split, he does really well, but the team loses because they just get out-strategized completely. They can't deal with the B main control of Heretics, where they do that paranoia and then the slow open the wall, and it just ruins them. Like Liquid have no answer. They go over to Ascent, and again, Scream is getting set up for kills all across the map with flash and dash plays, like Vision Strikers-esque. The same way that RB on Vision Strikers is not the best player on Vision Strikers, but he still gets fed a huge amount of kills because Stax is there all the time, putting him in position to be able to do it. Now, that is different on Liquid because you could argue that Scream is the best player on that team, especially when Link didn't really turn up. Scream is the best player, but you're also feeding him a bunch because of the style that you play. So he drops 30, it's 30 and 15. But Scream wasn't in hard carry mode for that map. When you go to bind, though, Scream is just all over the place. He's trying to hard read his opponents, pushing into long, pushing into showers, just trying to chat it out and just take aim duels whenever possible. And because he's a freak, he wins them all because he's just actually mental. But it's Team Liquid at that point are not playing Team Liquid style. On attack, perhaps, and you can see there, set up with the flash and stuff to be able to gather that kill, though opponent not actually flash, but still set up for it. On the defense, he's just actively trying to hunt for kills. And he's also the only player that's willing to face the Heretics guys because Soulcast and Link are mentally boomed because they haven't played at this kind of level before and they just straight up choke. But it's just nonsense to say that Liquid can't win when Scream drop a 40, blow them up, as if this is like they're playing perfect strategic gameplay and Scream is dropping a 40. Like the two don't exist together at the same time. In the previous games, either Scream is doing incredibly well and being fed his frags, or Scream is in hard carry mode and you're not playing your style anymore. Like the only reason you should ever see Scream going for these mental plays is because Team Liquid are already rattled. That's the solution to get Team Liquid out of rattled mode, which is to do with their players getting more experience, specifically, I think, Soulcast and Link in this game, and the strategy being worked on, which Heretics, I think, outplayed them at.
So, I mean, the answer here is no. They don't need to make roster changes, I think. And also, I mean, apologies for being on this topic for so long, but I felt like it was necessary. I wanted to spend a lot of time on this because I was fucking molding, dude. Reading some of the comments, it was peak. I don't know. It was just
the narratives coming from some of the fans were really bad out of this.
Yeah, and I think as well,
from you and from NA with Sentinels, with Shazam's. Like, I honestly think 100 Thieves guys kind of didn't help with their tweets like after the match. But either way, it was like it wasn't really on them to responsibly tell the fans to not talk about Shazam as if his father dying wasn't like a huge event that is soul crushing event for any human being. And like people were making comparison to like Double Lift when like his family tragedy happened. It's like, well, why wasn't Shazam Double Lift? And it was so I never do that, but I quote retweeted some guy on Twitter.
Yeah,
calling him just like a fucking loser for even like saying that because it was so dumb, and he actually apologized because it was really dumb.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's obviously not all fans are like that, where they make these extreme leaps and the lack of judgment. Obviously not, and it's like a loud minority at the end of the day. But you gotta cut it out early in a scene, otherwise suddenly it becomes the common consensus. You know, it becomes the common approach, I think. But yeah, it was disheartening to see. So it's
So no roster changes though. We're all in agreement. No
roster changes. No, I think this roster has a lot of potential still. Like it's
again, they barely lost.
They barely lost.
If they win,
the team that won the entire thing. So
the Heretics,
with arguably two of the best players in Valorant currently, with Nuki and Lowell. Lowell. I was telling Wyatt this, and it's like I will have a bionic womb to have Lowell's children. 100%. I would do it. Lowell's so good. Lowell's so fucking good. It's actually unreal.
Yeah, let's move on to Heretics.
So good.
Let's talk Heretics more. We didn't really talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible. Like, I mean, surface value. One of the most incredible things about Heretics winning is their composition. They have a Sage all the time, and it's on Lal, who's like the star player of the team in my eyes, and no one else is really. I mean, there are other teams playing Sage here and there, but since that major Sage nerf a couple months ago, she's been pretty much out of the meta. Yet the team that wins First Strike EU is running a Sage full time.
Yeah.
A battle Sage, Wyatt.
Oh,
It's a battle Sage.
God, I hate the term battle Sage.
I haven't heard it in a while, thankfully, because no one's playing Sage.
Oh no, someone.
Wait,
I was seeing it.
It was getting thrown out.
Yeah, and I mean, I know some people were just trolling me, but also there was some real battle saging going on.
Sage. That's gonna be my new play style, the battle Sage. Normally, when I play Sage, I just don't take fights. I just stay and spawn.
Yeah, you just heal your teammates, buy guns for everyone
you're
else.
A priest. You're like a resto priest, you know?
I only heal my team and my enemies, actually. I'm a pacifist. I'm like an extra objective on the map to capture. You gotta win my love and affection.
He got the good ending. Good ending of fucking Valorant. Pacifist run.
Yeah, this team,
Heretics are nasty.
Our expectations for them were like, oh, maybe they can upset, as we were saying previously, but they just blew it out of the fucking water. They were so explosive. I think almost every single member of their team was so mechanically skilled. They remind me of, in terms of their confidence, in terms of how they're taking gun duels. It reminds me of almost like Fish 123 when they first were a team, right? When you had like Soulcast and Artist taking 1v1 gun duels confidently, like at various points in the map. Like they are confident in their gunplay as a fundamental. They're never faltering. And off the back of that, as long as the strategies are good or alongside that, you're going to get a team that's just dominant. Not to say that Heretics had an easy time of it making its way to the finals, because they didn't. A lot of their games were very, very close. But it was in my eyes the difference maker.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing as well, is that we said they might be favored against Liquid, and they won an extremely close game against Liquid, with Scream going crazy on the final map. Then we said they had a chance to upset G2, and they just squeak out a win over G2 as well. It comes down to like what? There's the 13-11 on the final map, plus a massive choke from G2 losing a 9-3 half on their first map Ascent. So it's it wasn't a dominant performance. It was roughly where we thought they would be, but a little bit better. And they were just able to squeak out the win and squeak out the win. It's insanely impressive. Do I think they're going to redefine the meta with everyone playing Sage and set us up for a reign of dominance in Europe with Heretics winning everything? No, I don't think that's what we're in for. But Team Heretics have definitely shown that they are a extremely solid, strategic, and mechanical team that's going to be at the top level in Europe for the rest of the year. I think there's no reason that I can see that this team would drop off. They were the most consistent team of First Strike EU.
I'd like to add as well the fact, I think it was almost like the perfect storm that played into it with the fact that EU had very little broadcasted games. So compared to other regions where North America is a lot of counter-stratting specific teams, because they have so much tape on their opponents, there isn't really much to go off and analyze if you are a team playing in EU. So Heretics, honestly, I think a lot of their tendencies and play styles, it's why you see teams just in general in EU tending towards very strong fundamentals when it comes to like utility usage, is because there's not as much counter-stratting going on. There is still some, but not a lot. And also the bracket was just kind of fucked because they randomized the seeding. So kind of like the bottom portion of the bracket was incredibly easy. So when they played against Summon, I mean, if we're to briefly touch on the Summon versus FPX game, I would argue that their play styles are quite similar, like Summon and FPX. FPX are a team that, there's a lot of tape out there on them, on their play style, of how they like to play. And that's how they squeaked out the win. And also Summon, I feel like they didn't play as well in the finals. I think they kind of, what's the word? Maybe...
That was definitely the real upset of this EU. It was not here. It was Summon versus FPX.
You think Summon over FPX?
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that was the real upset. 100%. I think Heretics, like now that we've seen them play, like Heretics, and you put in context of like the other like 2-second snapshots we've seen them play in the past, like that tracks their performance in winning. Summon, I don't think this tracks at all, because like, okay, they beat Purple Cobras, wow, like in the quarterfinals, like, okay, but then they beat FPX, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is actually like that's not bad at all from Summon.
And Summon played incredibly well.
Wasn't too terrible either. Their finals wasn't that bad.
Summon are a really legit team, but I can't help if we want to go into the Summon FPX game. The final map was a fucking booming. Like FPX mentally crumpled. Absolutely crumpled on bind. I thought we were going to get set up for an amazing bind, like a clash of styles. Summon have this really cool strat where they run the Viper, but they ran 0 duelists usually, and then they started putting Doma on one as well, just to make it a little more well-rounded. And FBX have got 2 different looks on bind. They've got their previously second best in Europe look, where they play the Breach and the Sova, and they're extremely fundamental with their defaults, and they always play for ult orbs and that kind of stuff. You've all seen them play that before. And then they had the Viper and the Phoenix look that they were playing recently. And they felt like they couldn't run the Viper Phoenix look because it had been figured out or something. And they went back to their previous one, where they were the second best team in Europe. They only ever lost bind to G2, and they got shellacked. They just they just fell to pieces. They weren't doing any of the same defaults that they previously did. Their players weren't hitting the same shots that they previously did. When they tried to make rotations and lurks, they were getting shut down. Their players were just feeding all over the place. It looked awful from FBX, and they just lost hope.
I mean, I think what's the real difference between the two teams for me when you were looking at them on paper and when you were formulating your expectations for that match, the individual skill difference I felt was pretty real. Like, I think Domo's a really good fragger. I mean, they have some good fragging on Summon, but I don't think it matches up to FPX. And then when you address the stylistic similarities, it just leads to a conclusion of FPX should be winning this game the mass majority of the time, theoretically.
Yeah.
It looks like a game where there's not a lot of upset potential for Summon. And after the first map as well, it's like, okay, well, this is a wrap.
Yeah, the first map was such a dicking. It was such a dicking, too.
The fact that they
Poo attacking half on
the fact that they but the fact that they come back from that on map 2 and then blast them on map 3.
Yep.
I mean, it is really ridiculous. I mean, that is some mental fortitude from Summon as well.
It is, yeah.
The castle walls were not breached of their minds. Like, it was actually it's astounding for like a new team. For like a new team as well to be able to come back from something like that. It's very impressive.
Unsigned as well, Orgless.
Yep.
By the way,
They're going to be Plat Chat soon.
yeah. Although. I actually genuinely thought this was an org because of the fucking football club at the end, the FC. I thought they had been signed by some, because you know what happens in EU? You get like these niche football clubs that get into esports by signing a team. I'm trying to think of examples of where it's happened in the past, but you know what I mean. I just assumed it was that. I assumed it was like some Scandinavian football team trying to get into esports, and they had signed these players. But no, they are an orgless team, and they came second in the EU First Strike finals. So. You know, always available to be picked up. Do you guys think this was a clash of styles in the finals then between Heretics and Summon?
I think Summon have yet to really evolve the portion of their game where they adapt to their opponents really well.
Yeah.
When I think about Summon, I think about a team that is extremely tactically prepared and knows what they want to do in a map, but isn't very good at quickly adjusting to what their opponents are doing. And when Heretics have the better skill and a really good strategy, it fell to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I think Heretics are also just a far better, way more well-rounded team, just fundamental-wise too. Like, Heretics often don't make mistakes when it comes to their post plants or their bursts or anything like that. Like anything that is so crucial to how you actually win rounds in Valorant, Heretics don't make a lot of really bad mistakes. Someone I think are new enough to where I would occasionally watch them, like, I would kind of just see them like ego peek and die, you know, or like they wouldn't use their utility properly to take like some sort of part of map control, and Heretics would punish them really heavily because they had all this information and someone did not. So like just on the basic level too of just like fundamental play, I think Heretics was just a way better team at the time in the finals.
Let's move on. I want to talk the region that I've been gassing up for the longest time. We've all been gassing them up. That's right. Egypt. No, we're talking Brazil.
Egypt.
Got a couple of laughs on that. We got a couple of chuckles, you know.
We did. We did. We all had fun here. We had fun here.
What are you saying to me, Avast?
I said we have fun here.
Yeah, actually, I will say there's a lack of energy in the room today.
Wow, I'm energetic.
Yeah, I feel like, well, I think it's from Josh, actually. Josh is sucking our energy. He hasn't had his 24 hours of sleep, so he's draining ours. He's sucking our energy. You got any caffeine pills you want to pop, Josh?
No, I don't.
Before
but
we get
also,
into this
I think
segment?
part of the reason is I blew my voice out doing companion streams because I've been talking for 15 hours straight, 3-4 days in a row. And so
he's had
my
to wear an
voice
adult
is...
diaper.
My
He's
voice
just
is
rash. He has such a
struggling.
terrible rash from just sitting there for so long, soiling himself. It's not a good time.
Yeah, so your voice is fine.
So
okay.
Yeah, so that might be part of the problem.
That's okay. Don't worry. We'll make up for you. This is so Brazil. I watched a lot of the games in Brazil, and I still think this region has been heavily underestimated by the rest of the world in a lot of cases. Like more so, you know, to the extent where North America, like you see the NA versus EU shit talk rivalry in Twitch chat, and it's like it's a little bit jokey, but you know there's a 14-year out there that firmly believes that NA is the best region. Like they really do believe it. But Brazil, I think, is up there. I truly think that.
I mean,
You
it
are the
sounded like you're
14-year-old.
ready to take it all the way, and
So,
then
Bren, aren't you
you're
just
up
the
there.
14-year-old for Brazil now, Bren? Though,
Yeah,
Isn't that
yeah.
just you?
No, but
I thought you
I'm
were
not
gonna.
gonna.
I thought you were gonna deliver a shocking statement.
I'm not gonna make the claim that they are
I thought you were
one
gonna
of
give
the
us
best
a
regions,
headline.
but I
What
think
the hell were you just scratching your back with, Josh? What was that tool?
It's a bottle opener
Opener?
on a deer's horn or something.
You know,
It's a deer antler.
I think that's a call for help. I think there's something going on here.
This is a really good tool for just scratching. I mean, look at how many weird little points it has. It's fantastic because you don't quite know which point is going to make
You are
contact
a
first.
koala. You are a koala. You sleep 10 hours a day. You scratch your back on various protrusions like a tree branch. Like you're a koala, 100%.
So what
Next week.
happens if you have? I suppose you might have guest round, but if somebody asks, "Oh, where's the bottle opener?" and then you've got to hand them that, and you've got
Bro,
to take.
I'm not scratching
I know,
my head with the metal part.
I know, but you got to hand them that with the knowledge, looking at it, knowing that your skin follicles are all over the end of it.
I don't.
What,
That doesn't make.
what do you think happens when you grab something like that? You've got your hands all over it anyway. What difference does it make if
It's got
you
your
just scratch your
oils
back a little
and-
bit?
It's got your
Like
oils
50%.
and your
Like I'm pretty sure
hairs
like
in it.
half the molecules on every doorknob in every house or public space ever are just like fecal matter because of like restrooms and shit.
No,
Like,
that's not true.
I think it is. I
That's
think
not
it
true.
is. in
Don't tell
fact.
me that. Don't tell
Especially in my house because I fling poop.
me that. Anyway, let's talk. First strike
What-
Brazil.
What the fuck are we talking about, man?
Let me set the scene here, the context of this. Firstly, please never run a LAN event in a pandemic again, unless it's in a country that has their shit together. Because one of the effects that came out of this, with it being ran in a LAN event, I don't know if this was directly correlating to it, but it definitely.
It 100% was. I
You think it-
highly doubt.
Given the
I
fact
highly
that yes, given the fact that fusion fraggers. So for anybody that was it, what are they called? Vortex
Vorax
fusion. Vorax fusion.
Yeah.
3 of their members got COVID, which is why they got disqualified, or not disqualified, but they had to forfeit because 3 of their members had COVID, couldn't play in this LAN event in Brazil. Brazil currently the 3rd highest region in terms of COVID cases worldwide currently. This just screams just what the fuck to me. Like,
Yeah.
who
Yeah, I
made
mean,
this decision? Like,
yeah.
why not just play it online? Like every event has been thus far. Like, why does it need to be at a LAN event? Sure, it made the actual broadcast slightly better, but you've risked a team's lives. Like at the
And
end of the
also,
day.
you miss potentially the best team in Brazil being
Yeah,
there
and
because
exactly.
they all got COVID.
Yeah.
Vorax
Vorax
Fusion,
could have won.
potentially one of the
Yeah.
best teams in Brazil that missed out on the event now because of this. So we've set the scene. I'm pissed at that. Fuck it. You know, I'll come out. I'll say it. I'll start swinging. Listen, I'll step up to man. Don't worry. But okay, got that out of my system. Brazil is a region.
You popped a few too many caffeine pills this morning.
No, I have only had 1 cup of tea, but I mean, I could do with another one.
I like the energy.
I think this region
You're
is
fucking talking your shit this episode.
whenever we talked about Brazil.
Tell these Timmies.
Whenever we talk about Brazil, we always said, "Oh, they're aggressive. They're hyper aggressive, very mechanically skilled." To an extent, I've never used the words, but I think we've kind of implied it. But it's like all aim, no brain in some cases, where they are just throwing utility through. They don't really have a concept of how to plan out the mid rounds. So it's a lot of like 5-man rotations here, 5-man rotations there. And to an extent, that's still the case. But you can see the evolution of this scene. They're leveling up. And this tournament was a great showcase of that because you saw a lot of set executes that you see in other regions, a lot of flash and dash plays where they're playing off of each other's contact. We saw a lot of the mid-round adaptations to what teams were doing. It's a lot smarter. I'm talking mainly regarding the top teams like B4, Gamelanders, Pain as well. Those teams definitely up there. This is a region with a ton of potential, and still, no one is really talking about them.
I mean, it could be the region that's currently hosting the best player in the game.
Yep.
I mean, MW0 very well may be the best player in Valorant right now.
Yeah, and it's important to say the all of these discussions about like best player of 2020, MW0 has to be in the conversation. I had this discussion with Wyatt yesterday as well. There was a for some reason, I think it was Deserto, was running a poll about the top players of 2020 before First Strike had even concluded.
It was not a good poll. It was not a good poll either. It was the other thing.
It didn't even have like anywhere near the players that you would want on it. But it made me think that in any normal poll that a English-speaking organization would put out there, they would not include anyone from Brazil or Korea or anything else. And I think, fair enough if you don't want to include people from Korea or Japan or Oceania or something because you think the level of competition is lower. But you've got to be open to the fact that Brazil might have the best players or the best teams right now. It's an extremely high possibility that if we were having an international LAN event right now, Brazil would make the finals or even win the entire event with one of their teams, like, for example, Gamelanders, who won this one. Their players are cracked.
Yeah, from top to bottom. Like, it's the mechanical ability, but like I said, their ability to they're learning, like an advanced AI, a machine learning algorithm, just steadily improving itself. With every tier 2 tournament for $1,000 that they play, they are steadily getting better and better and better and better.
That's just how humans work, Bren. AI is modeled off of human
Yeah.
development, but I mean...
You're right. You are right. That is how humans work.
We only work that
Correct.
way because the AI modeled us after them. Right?
That's true.
But
That's true.
yeah, the region is definitely steadily improving as well in the tactical sense. But yeah, I mean, I think we have discussed at length the level of individual skill in the scene. But that is a good point as well. There are the actual ecosystem of the Brazilian scene is excellent. There are tournaments constantly. I mean, these players are getting opportunities to practice in
All
match
the time.
settings against the other top teams all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be a scoreboard Steven too, just because it's so ridiculous when you think about it. MW Zera went 94-61 over the finals with Pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
94-61. He almost dropped 100 frags.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
in that series.
John is.
And John
is,
was at almost 90. Is at 88
his
frags.
partner. They were both at plus 33.
That's
I mean, Gamelanders. I keep wanting to say DPS duo. What would you even call it?
Duelist-
Duelist
duelist
duo or
duo.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could call him the duelist, I guess. Fragger.
Yeah. Gamelanders duelists though are unbelievable. This duo of MW and John is so talented. And they do have a very supportive style from the rest of their team to empower these guys, but they just are so good in terms of how they outplay their opponents and the timings on their peaks and their actual raw aim, plus the variety of agents that they have under their belt. It's incredible to watch. These guys are beasts.
And they always deliver as well. Like they don't. There's never a game where both MW and John aren't stepping up. Like one of them is always popping. It really is an unreal duo at the moment. Like you could absolutely argue the two best duelists on the same team, or like the best duelist duo rather. In the game right now. I mean, they are truly ridiculous players.
Yeah.
By the way, Gamelanders only dropped 2 maps over the course of the entirety of First Strike, which is insane. As far as I'm aware, in no other competitive region was that the case, where a team went through and won the tournament whilst only dropping 2 maps. I mean, that's absurd. One in the finals and then one in like an earlier BO3. But they just blitzed everybody. And they weren't playing against bad teams either. Red Canids are up at the top there, so are in Gaming and in Imperial. B4 are a top 4 team, and Pain are a top 2-3 team.
They handled B4 as well.
Yeah.
That was
imagine if
really
Vorax
solid
could have been here, huh? Just imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a very, very good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
they might have made the final. It's tough to say. That would have been. I mean, hypothetically, it would have been Fusion versus Pain, and then that's a close one. That's
even then, Pain had a very
call.
easy road, I think, to get to the finals, all things considered. But yeah,
fairly simple. I mean, Haven Liberty are probably the weakest of the top 8 teams.
Yeah. I will say as well, out of these games, like I would say Gamelanders B4, probably one that I would put in like grand finals territory, which was in the semis here. You can see Gamelanders versus B4. And for that reason, like if you look at the statistics, Zand is one of the best players just in worldwide in terms of the numbers that he puts up. Yet in this game here, like John and MW0, they were just shutting him down. Like the game was ridiculous from them. We talk about, I think of Zand in kind of like the top 5 territory when it comes to duelist players, and his impact was mitigated so much by MW0 and John, 2 of these guys who you now have to like. I mean, MW0 already was, but John is a guy that realistically I wasn't really thinking of when I'm building a list of like top 5, top 10 players worldwide. But this unique duo of gamers, like you were saying, Josh, the duelist duo that they are, just I'm just kind of stammering for points here, but they're just good. They're good gamers, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
but they keep playing Reyna. That's my interesting thing is like, because we're all at this point, it seems the narrative is very much the anti-Reyna crew here, you know? Like, I express some sympathy for Reyna myself. I express some sympathy if you have a hard fragger, you know, like John or something, or like Caboose when he's on his game, which was why it was such a tragedy in his series, because Caboose was, especially on Reyna, was not having the best series. And if you have a bad series on Reyna, you just get way less value than any other agent because you literally have to be getting kills. And I mean, I feel like that's one interesting like bit that like maybe Brazil, if there's international competition, that's maybe something that Brazil gets exploited on, is like Reyna usage, like all the time.
The OG Brazilian comp is the Raze Reyna. They just love that comp in Brazil. But
a lot of those teams swapped over. A lot of the Brazilian teams were playing Raze Reyna and they swapped to playing Raze Jett full time. And then it seems like Gamelanders are the one team that has kind of stuck with it because MW is both their Raze and their Jett player. And they had a bunch of different comps. Like John would occasionally play the like Sage for them on some maps, or would play the Phoenix as well. And so I think that they are quite a flexible team in terms of the agents they can play, but this one probably fits their style a bit better, where they have MW as the guy that's always getting the kills, like is always in the right place, entering and stuff. And John is the guy who kind of sneaks himself into positions that he shouldn't be in order to get big value and catch people off guard. Which is how he gets value out of the Reyna. And again, the only reason he can is because he's mechanically gifted and better than the people that he's playing against. So, yeah, I wonder how it would go if they ended up playing in an international tournament. I think that the Brazilian teams would win at the beginning a lot because they would catch people off guard with how they play. It's just a totally different style. But I think the North American and European teams would adapt to them after a few tournaments.
I agree with you. I think the lacking point is what I've been saying. They've been getting better and better at the mid-round adaptations and with playing intelligently during the rounds. I still think that's one of the shortcomings of this region, because you see that in a lot of very one-dimensional kind of attempts, like tendencies to kind of just like 5-hit sites or 5-hit rotates around once they get the whiff of like maybe a bit of an over-rotation to try and just slam out the one individual who's lurking on the other side sometimes. Like that's generally speaking a common scenario that plays out in Brazilian Valorant. But yeah, I agree with you completely, Josh. I think this is a team or region with a lot of potential. And if they play, I think they're going to upset a lot of expectations as well. The first international tournament that gets played, as long as they keep on this track, which I don't see why they don't. I mean, they're receiving regular competitions and the players are all very skilled. So it's the perfect storm for self-improvement. Talk about Korea.
Wait for Champions or Masters 3.
Yeah, exactly. The international tournaments. Let's talk about Korea, the First Strike Korea event. I made a comment here. So Vision Strikers ended up winning, which was, you know, they look like they were faltering in some games. Like teams are getting closer and closer to beating them, but they are still the most dominant team in Korea. I made a comment after watching the finals that was, I think Vision Strikers are going to be thought of in a similar vein to Lunatic High in Overwatch. And when I wrote that comment, I was like, maybe I'm a dumbass, because immediately people took it out of context and just assumed that I was referring to Vision Strikers being one of the best teams of all time, which is not the case. I kind of meant it in the way that Vision Strikers, the way that they think about the game with their set executes, reminds me of kind of like the revolutionary players like Miro on Winston or Ryu Jae-hong on Ana. You know what I mean? Like the way that they played those particular characters and kind of they paved the way
They
for
had
the
a
rest
read
of
on
the
the
scene.
game that was ahead of its time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I think people are going to be thinking about Vision Strikers, because they seem to be one of the only teams, and you see this because a lot of the other teams just tend to copy their playbooks. Like a lot of their strategies, they tend to just kind of like adopt them into their own play. But they are one of the teams that really think about how to use every single piece of utility, how to combo it, the areas, when to use it, things like this. And they struggle in other aspects, admittedly. But I think early on, this is the team that is laying the groundwork for kind of the way utility is supposed to be thought about, the way executes is supposed to be thought about in Valorant as a game.
Yeah.
They
I
also
think
gave one of the
that's
most
very fair.
vicious dickings I've ever seen to C9 Korea on buying.
I mean,
the 13.
I mean, can we address just the absolute absurdity of the randomized third map?
Oh, yes!
That can be the same.
That's also
Okay,
true.
wait.
Again, later in that series, right? They did. It went bind where they 13-0'd,
no.
Icebox, then bind again.
What we witnessed in the Korean games is a statistical anomaly that will never occur again. I want to lay out what happened here. C9 Korea, they beat Crazy Hamster 13-0 on Haven, the very first map. And then the third map, Haven again. And they get the win. And then they play against Vision Strikers, lose bind 13-0, and then have to play bind again on the third map. What are the odds? That is an insane statistical anomaly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because these were totally
it's just-
randomized third
it's-
maps, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's poetic.
I
It really
did
is.
some-
It's
I did
beautiful. It's beautiful
But
poetry.
why? What is there? Just we have to address that. Is there? Do you think there's a benefit to having the randomized third map, or is it better to just have the loser pick like setup? Like, is there any benefit to this at all?
Did Riot Korea send in the check? Did the check clear? What?
What possible theorized benefit could there be? I mean, I think
I'm just bringing up the discussion.
Okay,
Just because
okay,
me
okay.
broaching the question is not
Okay.
me saying like I really love. In fact, actually, how about we just all go with Plinko and that's who wins first strike? Like no, the whole thing is I'm asking. Do you think there is any benefit? to
Okay.
this?
All right. Nobody overreact. Nobody overreact. Let's
Overreacting
answer
Owens.
honestly. No overreacting Orvilles. Let's answer honestly. Is there any benefit to the randomized third map? No.
No. No, there's not. There's not. It's like it's washing away the competitive integrity of.
but
First Strike Korea.
it's not even that though. It washes away the entertainment factor as well. Even if you could argue, oh, it's more fun to watch a random third map that no team has picked because it's more up in the air. You don't know who's going to win the third. You've already seen it. You've already seen the third
Well,
map.
it's so ridiculous too because for two of these series, the third map was the map, and it's just like they got 13 on the map, and then they played it again.
It's so absurd.
I can't believe it.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a 40% chance in a BO3 that the third map, if it's randomized, is one you've already played. That's like you're flipping a coin to see whether you're
Just
ruining
like
the
they come
series.
back those teams to where like it was like if there's schoolyard bullies and they just beat your ass on the way home in this one spot. And then they make you redo it again. Like then there's like maybe you have like a half day of school. So like you left and then you came back and you had to go back to that same spot. They beat your ass again in that exact same spot. And that's what happened in fucking Korea. That's fucking nuts. It's fucking.
Yeah.
See, I kind of think of it in the terms of like a map set, right? Because like sometimes you can think about it of like this is me talking about the benefits of not the randomized map, but so of like sort of the thought behind it of like versus like a loser's pick, because certain teams there might end up over time prioritizing certain maps. You're gonna see lots of maps a lot less, and some of those maps could be good. I'm not saying like no one's gonna pick Icebox. Like okay, like I guess some people did, but like holy fuck. Like, okay,
Yeah,
and so, but that's how I feel about it. Like, maybe they're approaching it sort of closer to like a map set where like they're making sure all the maps are played, but that's obviously way different than a randomized.
I could see that if it was randomized based on the ones that hadn't already been played. Then I can see, all right, maybe you're trying to make sure that all maps get displayed. Maybe you just Riot Korea really want Icebox to be played occasionally. but they didn't.
Yeah.
It was running for months and a half. Not even played as well. I mean, they even did that. They even did that for the BO5.
Yeah, you did it for the BO5.
In the 5th map, you have an 80% chance of it being a map that's already been played in the series.
They could have
so
had...
you deliberately don't play all maps.
Yeah. They could have had Ascent as the final map in the BO5, and it was Icebox.
Icebox twice.
It was Icebox twice in this series. I mean, it didn't go all the way, but still, like the.
I mean, this is crazy.
So I
BO1s.
But you have to think about it, like, you know, also imagine it's like the inverse problem to Europe, where like Europe they don't get to play any Valorant at all. Like they're desperate for a crumb of a BO3. They're like, please, may I have some more? And fucking First Strike Korea, they're over here like making them fucking do game show events and then determining who's gonna play what map, and they're getting way more maps than they asked. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can you imagine though, if, for example, I mean, the reason it's funny and not horrifically frustrating is that it didn't actually affect the outcomes, at least as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But can you imagine a situation where like Vision Strikers lost to Cloud9 Korea on Icebox, and Cloud9 Korea had a much better understanding of how to play that map? If the 3rd map had been Icebox and Vision Strikers goes out because they lose twice on the brand new map when they're better at every other map in the pool than Cloud9 Korea, I mean, that is horse shit.
Yeah.
So the reason that it's funny is because it didn't buy
See you,
Avast.
Avast.
See you later.
I
am Avast now.
I'm back.
No, you're not. Turn your camera on.
I'm back. I'm
Yeah,
back.
okay, now you're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, so it didn't actually affect anything, thankfully, but it was it was a dumb rule.
I did some journalism work. I asked my journalism friends in Korea to get to the bottom of this. Why is this map in the game? Why have they decided to roll out with this format? And the response I got was, "What? Let me try and fucking find this."
Pause, champ.
Yeah, sorry.
Pausing.
What do we got?
Asked them about it, and the guy said, yeah, that is weird."
So they don't even know. They're just like, some guy randomly was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, let's do it.
And this really, while we're on this topic, I suppose, I mean, later on, should we move on to this now, I guess? Yeah, fuck it. Why not? Can we talk about like First Strike as a whole, as an event?
Sure.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this really sets the scene. Was First Strike a good event? Well, yes, but also no. Because of the fucking batshit formats across the board.
But also, does it have to be?
Yeah, exactly. Does it have to be good?
Does it have to be? Wait,
I mean, I would argue you would. I would argue ideally. Yes.
No.
I would argue ideally. What is your? So wait, are you saying does this first only Riot event actually need to be good? Can Riot just shit in my mouth and call it a day? Like I don't know what. Explain yourself. Right? Explain yourself.
Yeah, because I mean, surely, okay. My read of what has occurred here is that there is a desire for experimentation across the board. Let's see what works. Let's see what people like and what people don't like, and then we'll go from there. I mean, I think that has to be the case to some extent, given that not one thing was the same between any region outside of the finals being an 8-team bracket. Everything was so different. And now there are factors in that, such as having third-party TOs running certain aspects of the qualifiers, etc. But even within the final 8-team brackets, there were differences, like we were just talking about with Korea. So I do think to some extent they are just trying to feel things out. And with this being the first tournament, there's some level of, okay, let's just see what people like, and then we'll adjust for the champions.
But that wasn't a
tour, right?
conscious decision, though, right? That wasn't Riot themselves saying, "Yo, let's put out all the different formats and see what happens." That was just the people running, like, because weren't these still technically TOs putting on a lot of the events, but it was just Riot backing.
I'm thinking about as well, like in terms of even things such as the broadcasts, like all right, let's just have different duos for all the games and like see what works and
They've
who's
done
good
that. They've
with
done that
who
before.
and-
Other games
Yeah.
have done that in emerging. That even happened in like Overwatch, where like they swapped.
I mean,
like,
League
some
also
around all
does
the
that
time.
every
And
year
League,
at Worlds.
Yeah.
yeah.
They always mix up the duos.
Yeah, so I just wonder if they're trying to feel things out to some extent as to see what works.
I don't
the
hate
best.
feeling things out. What I do hate is when new esports try and reinvent the fucking wheel, when they know that certain
Sure.
formats are
Yeah.
bad and yet they run them anyway. For example, constant BO1s in Europe. Everyone
There
knows
is no
that
excuse
BO1s
to
are
be
bad.
a one. There's no
Yeah.
excuse. To
No,
be
I
a
think
ones, right?
that's
Like, there's
the
none.
that's
There's none.
truly the worst
Randomized
thing.
final map. I'm like,
Again, there's no excuse in my
wonky.
opinion.
I would say that's wonky, right? But
I would
that's not
say-
as bad as
I would say
BO1.
that firmly goes in the there is no excuse category.
Maybe-
When you're repeating
Yeah.
maps in a series,
Yeah.
do you remember when that happened in Overwatch Contenders because
it's
of a rule
chance,
loophole?
though. It's not a guaranteed repeat. So really,
No,
it's not a guaranteed.
only
repeat.
80% chance. In a
Not guaranteed though. But a BO1,
Yeah.
it's guaranteed you're playing one map. So that's
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. I mean, I don't think they know why they did that with the repeating map. But yeah, the one thing you need off the back of this, which I think we're going to get next year, is consistency. And my crackpot theory that we have going into the reason why First Strike was just all over the place in terms of like formats and everything else, I think it was because the planning of this event, you have to sync it up with the dev team, you have to sync it up with esports people being available when they were running Worlds at the same time. I'm assuming they hadn't gone on a mass hiring spree for people involved in esports to run the Valorant esports fully yet. I think they've done some hiring for it, but I'm assuming they're like kind of pooling their resources from both games. So you end up with a bit of a hands-off approach to begin with. The formats are fucking wacky. They're giving it to the TOs. Okay. But even when it gets into the individual regions, I think they're giving a lot of agency to those regions in terms of what they want to do.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Riot Korea is like,
I
oh,
agree.
fuck it. You know, gambling's banned in Korea, so let's just fucking throw in a bit of gambling in the final map. Why not? Like, I don't know what the justification was for it, but each region was given its own little bit of spice on the end of it, of whatever they want to run. You know, Brazil, they were like, we're going to host the LAN during a pandemic. Not very smart, but okay. Hopefully you learn from your mistakes. Hopefully the Vorax guys are fine. Yeah, it's the number one takeaway needs to be consistency, you know, across the board, I think, from every region, because it makes it a hard viewing experience. It was already kind of damaging enough, the fact that they had split it over to like 50 live streams for every single region almost. Like I think NA had like 5 different places to watch it at. Not including like Myth and Ninja's co-stream.
the fact that viewership actually was so solid despite all the craziness is, you know, a good sign.
I can understand that. I can
willing to-
understand the strategy, which is we'll spread it out across as many platforms as possible. That way, no one's going to miss it. But what ended up happening
that's
was
what I think is good.
What ended up happening was people make adjustments on how successful your esport is, like the general consensus, based off of that viewership number, whether you like it or not. And like the plebeians and the general attitude towards your game is affected by that number being big.
Plebeians.
Yeah, it is affected by that number being big. So when you distribute the wealth a little bit, when you distribute the viewer counts across multiple channels, you fail to get that big hype generation moment. When somebody clicks browse on twitch.tv and goes to live channels, they don't see one channel with 100,000 views, First Strike Valorant. They see Rocket League. They see FIFA. They see a bunch of other streamers, and then they see Valorant at 20K. And then it's like, immediately a lot of the hype taken away from the casual audience, the people you're trying to bring in for your first major event. Like, it kind of gives it the air that it's not a big event.
I think
Yeah,
that
I understand that concern though, but I think it was mitigated by the fact that they just had it everywhere. I think that from our point of view as well, we were actively trying to follow every different aspect of the event. Most casual viewers aren't doing that. They are just watching the main event. So all of the fuckery with the qualifiers about like being on a bunch of like Tana Metro's personal stream and stuff. The average Timmy doesn't even give a fuck about that. They're not even going to tune in and watch that.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're just bothered about which teams make it to the quarters, the semis, or the finals. And they're going to tune in for that game. So I think a lot of the weird stuff to do with following First Strike, you almost have to forget when it comes to the marketing part of it, because that's not what the casual viewer is even interested in the first place. So I think, though, although that's a concern, the fact that you reduce the hype factor, getting it in front of people's eyeballs by having it in the most places possible did seem to be an effective strategy. Like, people could tune in, and anywhere you looked, it was there. Like, if you just look for Valorant, you're gonna see First Strike.
I mean, it was. Yeah, the finals were huge. Not only the viewership, but if you looked on other platforms as well, like Hiko was trending on Twitter. 100 Thieves were trending. I mean, 100 Thieves are like, they kind of get like some paid spots. But like the fact that Hiko was trending with like 15,000 tweets, that's pretty crazy. I mean, that is a pretty ridiculous figure. One of the things I was worried about going into the main event was that after all of this lead up, just an immense amount of games leading into this main event, that the single bracket of 8 wouldn't feel like enough. Like after all that, I would feel like I wasn't satisfied. But that isn't the case. I actually think that just one 8-team bracket leading into a BO5 of all maps for every region was pretty adequate.
I think it's fine
that's
for
exactly
viewers and like us, but I think the various players and teams expressed sentiments that like they didn't like the single.
Yes.
Yeah, and I get
specifically,
that.
I mean, normally you get that from people who lose, right? And that's understandable because they're like, oh, damn, we did all of that work and we got knocked out just based on 1B or 3. I feel like we had more to prove. I would have preferred if it was double elim. But Steele, who won, also said that he has always had the opinion that it should have been double elimination.
Well, that's because players that have been in the game a long time, they know that next time it can be them. Next time it could be them knocked out because they have a bad series and then they can't make it back because it's single elim. Like players that have been around a while understand that double elim's the better format.
I agree. I think from the viewership perspective, though, it was needed. Because I think that just the previous amount of games for the qualifiers was just too overwhelming. I think, and if you want to follow multiple regions, I mean, I think from a viewership perspective, it was pretty great. And I think that if you want to have the lower bracket for the finals or the main event rather, which I also agree you should, then I think the qualifying process needs to be a bit more streamlined and less.
Plus, imagine the
lengthy for
European
viewers.
First Strike broadcast with double elim in this event. Like it took them like 5 hours to do a BO3 because of technical issues.
Yeah.
Imagine like double elims. They would have had more total broadcast hours for the First Strike event than for every other piece of Valorant EU content combined ever in the history of the game.
Yeah. I would like to see them moving forwards. If you think about their 2021 plans where they have the challengers and the masters and then the challengers, masters, and then the champions at the end. I'd like to see every LAN event be GSL style groups into single elim, like similar to First Strike, but you actually have a group stage where you find out who goes through. So it's like 16 teams. You have your 2 teams or 4 teams get eliminated in the group stage or whatever, and it moves on to what the fuck am I talking about? Anyway, whatever. GSL into single elim. I can't remember the fucking details now. But for champions, for the big main event, I want to see that be double elim because that's where all the different regions are coming together and playing together. And when you double elim it, you get different brackets because you like flip the lower bracket. So if you got knocked out by a Brazilian team at the top, you might face like a EU or a Korean team on the bottom. That's where you're gonna see the great value of double elim when it comes to champions, when it's truly about like, this is what it's all been building up to. This is your route through it. You've got this bracket. You just have to make it to the end. I'm thinking of like TI. I'm thinking of like the Overwatch League finals. Double elim is just better in those circumstances. But for when you have 3 masters throughout the year, I am perfectly fine with it being GSL into single elim.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I didn't think about that. They had 3. I guess I didn't think about that.
You're mumbling. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was just I said I forgot about the fact they're gonna run 3 master style events. Like the JP.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
That's okay. You're okay. You can talk louder next time as well. It's fine.
I have a problem with mumbling when I hit the new information because that's when my AI core is processing all the new data inputs. I'm learning.
Overall, though, I mean, was First Strike a good tournament? I said yes, but no. But I feel like I had fun. I enjoyed the tournament. I enjoyed watching all the regions. My complaints, I think, are stuff that can easily be rectified coming into next year. This is obviously a learning moment. It's early on in a game's esports lifespan, and this was a good showcase. I think viewership was strong across the board. It's a wonderful opening act, I think, to what Valorant esports could be in 2021.
And to drag that a bit further as well, outside of First Strike a good tournament? Is Valorant esports good? Like, is it a good esport? Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah,
Holy
absolutely.
shit. Like, watching First Strike, watching all of the different teams with all of the different styles, choosing different agents on different maps. Like, there's not just one set meta, which is a problem in some games. It doesn't feel totally random like it is the problem in other games. There's a lot of deep strategy, which again is a problem in some games. It has incredible entertainment value and it's really tense, which is one of the best things about CS. Plus, you get all of these extra additional tactics and strats based on the agents. I think this displayed such a fantastic starter for what Valorant esports will be in the future, where you have these regional rivalries and the teams are just going to get better and better, and the skill level is going to continue to improve. I'm hyped for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. What the heck is next on the docket?
Do you want to talk about the viewership now, after we've just talked about the tournament?
We
sort
kind
of
of
did
mentioned
touch
We
on
sort
it.
of went over.
I mean, is
it was
there anything
good.
else
It was
you want to
just-
say?
It was good, you know?
I mean,
Well,
it wasn't just good though. It was fucking immense.
Yeah, the
Well,
finals
my
viewership
caveat,
is
though,
ridiculous.
my caveat with that is that I always wonder early in the game's life cycle, like it's good that companion streams I think are being leaned into with like Myth and Ninja, even though we didn't actually stream until the final day, but whatever. But like the caveat for me is I always wonder separating when it's this early in the game's life cycle, because when you're deep into a game, like let's say for Overwatch or CS or whatever, like these people like CS and they like Overwatch or they like League or whatever, and like because the game is super established and they're watching this because they're interested. But for big personalities, really big personalities, streaming Valorant early on, does those viewers translate directly into Valorant viewers later? That's my one caveat with that. And because I don't have an issue with because I think people need to sort of, the whole traditional model of broadcasting, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be set in stone with esports because there's so many options available with live streaming. But it's more of, does that viewership like directly translate to what Valorant's potential currently is? This is not me saying the Valorant viewership was bad. It's just more of specifically when we look at like the 100K viewers combined between like Myth and Ninja, are all of those people going to translate into a main broadcast? I don't know.
I think they would for Myth, though, because the thing is, I don't know about Ninja. I really don't know. But when it comes to Myth, he was sat at somewhere between, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here because I don't look at the viewership all that often, but I think he was sat somewhere between 15 to 20K when he's co-streaming normally. And for the final, he peaked over 100K. That's 80K extra viewers that aren't coming to him because he's Myth. They're coming to him because he's watching the finals of First Strike.
Yeah.
That to me means that those people are there for Valorant. They're also there for Myth, but they're there for Valorant and they want Myth to like be their kind of vehicle for watching the game. But they're primarily attracted to the stream because he's doing the final. And that enormous jump in growth, I mean, that is enormous, the jump in viewership, where he's normally sat at like max 20 and he peaked above 100K. I mean, that to me indicates that that is enormous amounts of interest.
I feel in the case of Ninja as well, given that Ninja just actually streams the game a lot and he seems passionate about being a competitor, that leads me to believe a lot of those viewers are convertible or have already converted. It's just people that are there to hear his...
Like, it's not me. I don't think there's like a poor conversion rate. It's just more me guessing like really where we at this number. Because also the other thing too is that if we think about how new Valorant as a Twitch channel is and like social followings comparatively to Myth or Ninja, I feel like a singular channel like Myth is probably a lot easier to get a lot of people into than the split channels that we have with Valorant currently, since they're so new comparatively in terms of their actual like follower counts. So it's not
a great
me
marketing
doubting
campaign.
Yeah, it's not me doubting Valorant viewership.
It was a fantastic decision by Riot to give Myth and Ninja exclusive rights to it as well. I think that was a great marketing decision to do that. It just hyped everything up. It gives people a different avenue if they don't want to listen to like a professional broadcast and instead they just want to listen to people shooting the shit. Myth and Ninja both know the game. They've both played a lot of it. So it wasn't like they just got in some random personalities. You know, Ninja's been competing actually at somewhere near the top level in North America. So yeah, it's it's a great decision. For me though as well, I was concerned that Valorant had lost a lot of the hype from the FaZe Invitational. The FaZe Invitational peaked at, I think, 170K.
Yeah.
We looked this up a couple of days ago.
Or it was like 190. It was one of the two. It was 170, 190. Which
No,
is
I don't think it was. I think it was closer to the 170 mark. So.
Yeah, I
Which
looked up an
wasn't
article
bad.
and it said 170. But yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Like when you consider where Valorant was at, there was this enormous peak in the beta because everyone just wanted the keys. And we knew that the viewership was inflated at that point.
Right.
It could never sustain that level. And then, it dipped down. And for the first few tournaments, it was promising. And then 170K for the FaZe Invitational. People are losing their fucking minds. Insane TSM Sentinels finals. And then Pop Flash, a month later, I think only got something like 90K overall. And so
it was something around that. But
it was
like an
significant
average
drop.
of like 40 though, really. Closer.
But I mean the peak. You have to compare the
peak.
peaks. If you're going to compare the peak for one, you have to
That's
say
true.
the peak for the
That's
other.
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
But it was a big drop off, even though the production for Pop Flash was better than the production for FaZe Invitational, I think. So I thought that we were losing steam a little bit, and I would have been happy if we had just got back to the numbers of the FaZe Invitational.
Yeah.
But the fact that we nearly doubled the numbers of the FaZe Invitational, it peaked at over 300K viewers. That to me, that's like all of the hype is just straight back into the game leading towards 2021.
I was really worried that people were just going to be out of gas rather for this tournament. Like with the lengthy qualifiers, the pause between FaZe and Pop Flash leading until now, and then Pop Flash wasn't exactly a hype way to end. The finals just weren't that great because I was still like a lesser envy, just kind of getting wrecked by Sentinels, and there just wasn't a great final. Wasn't a lot of viewership. So, and then, long break, to an extent, an exhausting qualifier. Even as an avid viewer, there were definitely points where it's like, oh my God, holy shit, this is still going. I mean, there was so much. It was just an unbelievable amount of games for all regions. And then for it to just explode for the finals like that, it is very incredible, and I did not expect it at all. I was, I would have been happy with FaZe numbers.
We were discussing this in the kitchen, Wyatt, a couple of times, but the concept of the fact that this year has been entirely during the pandemic, so we haven't had the international competition. This is, honestly, I think international competition, I don't know if you guys agree with this take, but when I was watching CS a lot back in 2014, 2015, 2016, international competition was a thing that drew me to it. The LAN events.
Yep.
Watching the best of the best compete against each other. The energy in the arena. And we haven't even reached that point yet with Valorant. Like, we haven't even got there yet.
No.
Like, the game is still developing. And it's going to be, I mean, hopefully at the end of 2021, assuming nothing goes wrong, that will be the point where we finally see it. I say
nothing's gone wrong so far in 2020, so I'm sure 2021 will be roses.
Well,
and it
that's
does
what
have
I mean.
a potential wider reach, right, Bren? Because they also are looking to include some of the regions that aren't traditionally part of like
Exactly. Well, you're going to have this cross-region, right? You're going to have the Brazilian viewership, already very good. Turkish viewership, already very good. You're going to have all of these different regions coalescing into this one event.
Like the Japanese viewership was really good.
It was Japanese viewership was over 30K, as was Korea as well. And that's like a little, that's not what they would have wanted from Korea. I think it's a region that if you really get into it, you can explode over there. But Japan that's abnormally large viewership from Japan, 30K.
Which is weird because their esports scene is all just like fighting games. And
games. Yeah,
like they don't
not
like
PC games.
traditionally like FPSs.
Like a lot of the households in Japan don't own PCs.
Yeah.
It's
Turkey was over 70K.
God, that's ridiculous.
Turkey was top. The EU Valorant stream, people got really obviously as they always do. But whenever Paro was playing Porta was playing, like all the Turkish fans were like Bora. And everyone's like, shut the fuck.
I mean, that's. I mean, even if you just if you were to combine that European viewership and bring in the Turkish viewership and the CIS viewership, which admittedly wasn't that great, but when you bring all those teams back into the mix in one tournament there, and then consider crossing over with North America, South America, Asia, it is just
But here's my question then to lead off of this. Sure. So I thought the overall viewership was great, and the NA Valorant viewership in particular was really good, but I felt EU was struggling because I'm not going to include Korea because Korea, it's like they're fighting against Korea is sort of like, we have to just wait and see and the type of thing, because they already have so many alternatives. And it's just like, I also think in general, because a lot of the hype of Valorant has been initially Western oriented, and it's just picking up steam there, that we'll just have to wait and see. But for EU, I felt the viewership, especially when G2 lost, the viewership wasn't bad for EU at all, considering that there weren't a lot of very big names at this point left in the tournament, and the broadcast was so atrocious in building the storylines and consistency before this. But I kind of feel like, for me, I'm worried that we're entered into, like, for Valorant, the viewership will be good. It'll be very solid scene, but there will be a pretty big divergence between NA and EU, simply because EU CS is still very much alive. NA CS is dead, like almost dead at this point, because of the fact that all the pros moved to Valorant.
You notice as well, like, it's the transplants, right, when it comes to the NA pros, like, over towards the Valorant scene, but also the fans. The NA fans have all come over as well. I mean,
because it's the new shiny thing, and all the big players moved.
Yeah, Josh and Wyatt, you guys know the amount of people you get in your chat just like making comparisons to this player played well in CS. So therefore, that's what they've built up.
That's what I'm worried about between the two scenes, though.
But I think that is a very reasonable and valid concern, that the EU viewership was a third of the size of the NA viewership. That is obviously a concern. I think, though, if you include Turkey into Europe, because normally when they play, well, actually, I say normally, maybe they are just going to segment Turkey off on its own, but I think that would be a mistake. I think the Turkish teams are good enough, absolutely, to compete at a top 8 level within Europe. You would expect teams like Oxygen and BBL to be able to make top 8 if you open things up across the board. So if they combine the two, then actually, when you look at the numbers, you're nearing 180k viewership for EU, which is just over half what NA was able to get. And at that point, when you consider how awful the EU coverage has been, that to me is actually promising. And I feel like if they fix the issues with Europe in terms of the awful coverage of it, like BO1s all the way through, didn't even broadcast the qualifiers, didn't even open them up to community broadcasters. They literally just said, we're only going to broadcast the final qualification games. So we didn't see teams coming into it. If they fix those kind of fundamental issues in Europe, I still feel like it's going to be a moderately healthy scene. I don't think it's dying. I don't think it's on its way out at all. But it's not close to North America. North America's done things significantly better. And it's like what Bren opened up the episode with. You reap what you sow. Europe has fucked themselves over with the decisions that they've made with Valorant, and they're reaping what they sow in terms of only just getting over 100k concurrents.
Yeah. Just remember this hype when the next 3 months are really dry.
Yeah, I mean, there's
because everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon for the next 30 minutes. Remember this hype 2 months from now when nothing is happening.
I was going to add on to the back of this, but I think the way that this translates now is big updates in game, because you've attracted probably a lot of new viewers to Valorant, probably a lot of people interested in playing the game for the first time, and now you just got to keep them hooked with the updates until the esports kicks up again, and you can start to incorporate some stuff in the in-game client, like what they do with League of Legends. Start trying to get that translation over, where you're trying to get the players actually watching the esport when you roll out with the 2021 circuit, which is going to be the next biggest challenge. But overall, I mean, a very, very successful 2020, I think, for Valorant esports in general. I mean, we saw the JBL event. It's supposed to be happening
next week already.
It's next week.
Although apparently 100 Thieves said they're going to be broadcasting their comms and stuff for that event, so I don't know how seriously they're taking it. But I'm surprised that. Well, apparently that's what somebody tweeted. I don't know. Someone in my chat was saying it. I don't know why I even believe them anymore.
Really? There's no way, right?
That seems like a very 100 Thieves thing to do.
Yeah, it's a 50k event, and it's right after they've won First Strike. It's 50k, which is pretty big, but it's right after they won First Strike, and it has none of the same.
So maybe they're just gonna like just show up and like play.
I don't know.
I guess
it's hard to tell until you see the people that are actually there at the event. I think it's very difficult to tell, like, how serious it's really going to be.
Okay. We've got another topic here, and it's where we give our most underrated player of First Strike, which is where we go around in a little circle. We each give our individual players. Avast, I think we'll start with you. You've slicked back your hair with some Some pig grease this morning.
Well, I was getting ready I got ready. I woke up and I had my coffee, I had my shower, did a quick shave. I'm like, then I hop in the podcast, you know, I'm like, where's everybody at today? Where's everyone? So I got all ready, but I don't have a lot to get out for because we're still, you know, so I would say that for me though, it's tough because when you look at like an international like event, like there's so many players. Like, are we just picking the one player that was the most underrated overall in our mind?
I think it's just a player that people wouldn't consider, I suppose.
Player that people wouldn't consider.
Yeah.
Or someone you think deserves praise that the community has not.
That has not
that's a
totally
good way of putting
recognized.
it.
I honestly, I'm sticking with Cutler.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with Cutler.
That's
I
reasonable.
really, really like how Cutler plays in TSM and the way, like, I'm interested to see though how they move forward because I really do think them not playing Sentinels at all is going to, like, playing any Sentinel agents is going to bite them later on down the line if they don't like start trying with it. But I think Cutler, how TSM is set up and built around Cutler, it's just a better, more well-functioning like C9 overall. And they also are just adding like more interesting components to it than what C9 is able to do. So I really, really like Cutler and how good he is with utility. I think he's a very underrated player. That's mine. I'm going.
What
with
about you, Wyatt?
I have to go with one of my favorite players, who is John from Gamelanders.
Ooh.
I think John is one of the best players in the game right now. I think he's one of the best aimers in the game right now. And he just happens to be on a team with another guy who might be the best player in the game, period. So I think he kind of gets glossed over in the in sort of like the mainstream, I guess, like the typical discussion surrounding the Brazilian scene or Gamelanders. But he is an incredible player. If you want to be a scoreboard Steven, I mean, his stats are out of control, but his level of impact in games, he just pulls off unreal rounds. Like his proficiency in getting 2-3 Ks that other players just simply cannot, but he's just hitting the crispiest shots to pull off just insane moments in mid rounds for his team. He is just one of the most talented players in the game, I think, right now. And I feel that he kind of gets overlooked and might continue to get overlooked until maybe we get more towards the international competition or a bit down the line when we see more Gamelanders on a main stage. But yeah, I think John is just an incredible player.
Josh?
I don't know. This is a bit tough. I mean, probably the most underrated player it was someone we've already talked about, which is Soulcast. But I don't want to harp on that again. He's obviously not like. He didn't play a great game, but he's just been shit on. But to actually take the spirit of it a little more, I think I would go for, I don't know. Do you feel like, I feel like Steel is a little underrated still in 100 Thieves.
You think so?
I think
after
that's
this
fair.
event?
Yeah,
Feels underrated?
I mean, I think
I
we've
think-
been gassing him up,
That's what I
but
mean.
yeah.
Our perspective is different to what I think other people's like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the average fan perspective is still that, the 100 Thieves are carried by Asuna playing incredibly well and Hiko winning every clutch. Like, I think that is the narrative around 100 Thieves. But whenever I watch them, I'm so impressed with how Steel plays. Not just as individuals, but in terms of how he directs the team based off the information he gathers from his cams or his trips or from his setups or from his turret, but also from the areas on the map that he pushes and the lurks that he is able to find, and then the entries and the way that he's able to deal with uppers. He has a huge impact on the game that I think a lot of it is not reflected in the scoreboard, so he doesn't get given full credit for it. I know that a lot of people still think Steel is excellent and that he's like the IGL and stuff, so they give him props for that. But when you watch his game, he's a level above. He's just directing the game and controlling the flow of it and leading 100 Thieves to a lot of these wins in maps. And if you don't believe that Steel is underrated, so you don't think he qualifies, I want to throw Boaster into the mix as well from SUMN FC.
That's
Because
good.
I think just generally speaking, SUMN are a pretty underrated team. Like, I think the narrative coming out from First Strike will still be, SUMN got a bit of an easy route and FPX flopped against them. It was an upset. They won't do it again. Now, do I believe SUMN are actually a better team than FPX? No, I think they're sat somewhere around like the fourth place, third place maybe in Europe, more towards like fourth though. But still, that is incredibly good achievement for a team. And I think the majority of the reason that SUMN are really good is that they're well coordinated and tactically sound. And so I think you've got to give credit to their coaches and to their IGL Boaster. He's also a fucking G when it comes to like interviews and any kind of on-camera stuff. He's just a funny UK lad. So shout out to Boaster.
For mine, I was going to go with Brazil, but then you said John. So I was like, already we've been gassing up Brazil, or at least I have this entire time. So I'm going to take a different approach. Instead, I'm going to go with, I think, Stacks from Vision Strikers. There's the Breach player for Vision Strikers. He's the integral cog in the Vision Strikers machines. In terms of a lot of their flash executes, they use Breach heavily in terms of how they set up plays. Stacks is really the central piece for a lot of this. But it's not just his utility usage. It's actually his raw mechanics, which are incredibly impressive. This guy is a freak. I think he's going to have a long, long career in Valorant, assuming he keeps it going. And I don't think it's going to matter what team he's really on. He is just a true talent in that region. And it's a region that a lot of people look at and are like, well, you know, they've got this, but they're not as good as the other regions because of mechanical ability, or maybe like the mid-round adaptations are just weaker. But I think Stacks is one of those players that if Korea was to, you know, be elevated over time to the same level as a lot of these other regions, he could be considered a top talent in the game. And he doesn't even really play duelist, I'm pretty sure. He's like a Breach one trick across the board almost. I think he switches every now and then, but the guy is just that good. He's mechanically so fucking gifted in terms of what he can pull out. Unwinnable rounds, he'll be getting 3 pieces on a regular basis. On top of the fact that he needs to be the one with the expert timing when he's flashing his team in, when he's setting them up with plays. So, Stacks from Vision Strikers is my choice.
Not bad.
Boom. Meeting
Solid.
adjourned.
Very solid.
Wait, we've got more. Holy shit. We got another topic here. What teams do we think might make roster moves going forward? This, I feel like this is so open-ended because I feel like we are literally going to be in the process of just in the contract when they released the rules. What was the cutoff period for 2021 in terms of teams?
Wait, what?
You know, with the champions and challengers and whatever it is.
Yeah.
Challengers, masters, champions. Wasn't there a cutoff period in 2021 in terms of like orgs getting players in for the first qualifiers in the rules?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think
honestly don't know.
I don't think they've said. I don't think they've released the rules. I think we were just theorizing that the off season would be from when champions ended in like late December up until mid-February when challengers of the next year begins.
Yeah.
So we thought there would be a lot of roster rotations happening in that period of the year.
Even still, I think there are going to be big moves being made because a lot of organizations got into Valorant with the intention to gamble with First Strike, essentially, with the event. And they're like, we want to see results. We're going to sign these guys up. We're going to stick with them. That was the last test, essentially, that's just passed. And a lot of the teams did not pass the vibe check. They didn't get there. They didn't go through with it. So I think we're going to be seeing a big shakeup in terms of the teams. Some of the top teams might stick it up.
What do you think didn't pass the vibe check just right off the bat? Who do you think didn't pass the vibe check? Okay, FaZe, fair. Yeah.
Immediately, I think FaZe are probably going to be making some changes.
I was thinking maybe we like open the VLR team list and just give a little like quick rundown guess of the teams from First Strike. But you think what do you think FaZe are going to do? You think they're? I mean, I think the obvious FaZe move that people would speculate is that they would get rid of Raucus.
I think they might.
Do you think they would do it?
They might try and revamp it from. I don't know what positions they might swap in and out.
But do you guys think that FaZe actually underperformed their?
And that's the other thing too. They looked so bad, and then they looked much better in quals, and then actually made it to the main event. So is that an under? Because we were talking about that in the last episode.
They performed up to the levels of expectations for us, but as an organization, FaZe Clan, which likes to think of itself in the same vein as 100 Thieves and these other teams, like
I'm not convinced. If I'm a suit that works for FaZe that doesn't know anything about Valorant, which I think is part of the reason that FaZe signed the team that they do, is because they don't really give that much of a shit about like signing an elite level team. They just thought this would work. They look at it and they say, "Oh, top 8 finish. Top 8 finish. We
you don't
made
think
the
they'll be
quarterfinals.
making
We're the same.
changes?
No, we're the same as Immortals. We're the same as T1." I personally, even though I think this team would benefit from maybe altering some changes, I think their performance on paper was good enough that FaZe Clan won't be breathing down their necks. They made top 8. They made the playoffs. They're the 5th to 8th best team. You could argue, if you wanted to, that they're the 5th best team, just based on the, their standing in the quarterfinals. If you really believe they were better than T1 or Renegades or Immortals, then they're the 5th best team.
Yeah.
I don't think they are, and I think that FaZe should consider making roster moves. But I think that the decisions at FaZe are being made by someone who doesn't really know Valorant. And that's the reason that they signed the team that they did. And so I don't see any reason that they would believe that FaZe are sucking at the moment, because they are on track to actually, do some damage. They have decent wins in the last month.
And any top 8 team from any of the regions, like, well, especially in ANEU, like, can you even think of, like, aside from FaZe, like, I wouldn't, Immortals have had so many changes. It's a miracle they made it to top 8. Envy, in TSM, 100 Thieves, all looked really good. Like, even Renegades, like, I would say, kind of came out of left field, and like there's still plenty of room. There's still plenty of room for them to grow, right? Like, if you're any top 8 team, like, what do you even change, right, at this point, other than maybe FaZe? Like, if anything, it should be all the teams that aren't in top 8.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. Teams like Cloud9, teams like NIP and Guild, who underperformed their organization's expectations. Those are the teams I'm looking at that will be incentivized to make changes. Even though if you ran it back with those teams, they would probably make first strike. But those are the kind of results where orgs take notice and they say, we need to make a move.
Do you think, I mean, I don't know much about Liquid, but do you think that Liquid, the organization, would want to make a move?
I don't think they would.
I don't think they should either. But I'm asking, do you think that looking at their results, Team Liquid may feel like we need to make a move? Because what if Liquid's finish has been now? They finished in the round of 8 to Heretics. What was the... I can't remember. I mean, it's ages.
That's the low bracket final, so they must have finished in 3rd.
They finished 3rd at Blast.
So they did the best in the West showdown.
I mean,
that was just a show match. So
they haven't had good, since signing that team. They haven't had good performances. Like 3rd was the best they've done. But like first strike was the thing they were looking for to perform well in.
Yeah, but they've all also it was a bunch of BO1s, and then they fixed the BO1 shit, and they went into first strike.
Which is why I don't think they should.
I think Liquid historically too, if you look at them as an organization, like, and since it's like, I think Liquid is also still staffed by like a lot of veteran esport like people across their other games. They generally don't just blow up rosters immediately. Like, players themselves might want to leave rosters and they like acquiesce to that. They say like, okay, fine. But like, I don't think historically Liquid just like throws away rosters, At least recently.
I want to see this roster continue, just because I have faith in in the players themselves and also just the structure that they're in. I think that they can go further, and we've already been over this. We've talked it to death, but they ended up going out to Heretics, the winners of the eventual tournament, and it was so incredibly close that Liquid could have won that match. So in terms of how much stock you put into this, I think this was honestly a fantastic showcase from Liquid, if anything. And in one small change here and there, could have been seeing a completely radically different EU bracket with us singing the praises of Liquid. So I don't think that team should be making change.
I think if you made top 8 Valorant first strike for any of your region currently, because of how young Valorant is and how wonky the formats have been for everything, I don't think anyone should consider any changes. That's really my cutoff. Other than FaZe, maybe. But are you not just aiming for that number 1 spot? Some teams
are going to be making changes, even if they finish top 8.
I mean,
don't
but for
really know
EU
what-
in particular, it's tough because there's been just so like this is the first like really big event. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
The next event they could just have more time and like they could have spent more time in, because also for EU, it's like there's one thing to spend a lot of time prepping and playing and VOD reviewing, but another thing to be playing in matches. Like they just had so much less match time overall, I think. So EU in particular,
Yeah.
I just if you make top 8, you don't change anything.
I mean, there's Cloud9 that's rumored to be making some changes as well. But I mean, they didn't even qualify for the main event, right? That's an obvious one, and that's a team that I also kind of feel like, I don't know.
That's a tough one. Thinking about
Have
what
you guys seen the rumors?
Which
Like,
rumor?
well,
I don't know the
Poised said on his stream that Shinobi had been cut from the team. That's the
Oh,
big
really?
rumor that's floating around as of yesterday. There's a clip from Poised stream where, let me see if I can find it for you guys so I can
don't
repeat the
think that
exact
makes
wording.
sense.
I think that makes zero sense. I think that is a reaction from the suits that makes no sense
That is
to actually making the team better.
That is a suits reaction. Just looking at the scoreboard, Shinobi doesn't get as many frags as everyone else. We need someone else now.
Suits are fucking Reddit Randys, just going around
that is-
making decisions off of the scoreboard.
I think that would be a really bad change, actually. And also, if you look at Shinobi individually over First Strike, he's way better of a fragger than he used to be. If that is the case, I don't have a lot of faith in Cloud9. going
Cloud9,
forward.
yeah.
I don't think that necessarily helps them.
Yeah,
I mean,
it just depends
not
on
even
who they're
necessarily.
able
No, he
to
does.
like. Let's say even if Shinobi was like, let's say just for example, like Shinobi was the wrong move for them to get, but let's say they somehow managed to swing like getting like a proto. Is that inherently the wrong move?
Who's leading the team, though?
That is a good question. Then it's
I
like
mean,
who's
that's-
IGL.
Yeah,
So,
then it's just who's going to lead the team? Because this is something you've seen in CS before as a direct example. A team's in-game leader is fragging really poorly, so they decide, okay, let's just get another guy who's really good at fragging, and hey, you, the other guy who's been on the team for like a year, you can just be the in-game leader now, and it works for like 3 weeks, and then that fully expends the limit of their mental fortitude being an in-game leader. Where like Shinobi is an in-game leader's in-game leader. You know what I mean? Like you've seen that before, and then the team just falls apart and crumbles anyway because they don't have a true IGL anymore.
I mean, you would have to reshuffle a lot of the roles as well to make that work. Like that isn't the kind of role where you can do a one-to-one swap and just you could plug in the best omen in. Fuck it. I mean, who even is the best omen in North America? I don't know. Let's say Nitro because 100 Thieves won. Yeah,
Calypso's a free agent. They
Calypso
sign him.
simp. Okay, I mean, Calypso's a free
Jonathan
agent, so fuck it,
Coleslaw
that would work.
Stanny. Jonathan Coleslaw Stanny, of course.
I'm going on free agency.
All right, so sure, free agent Calypso. Let's plug Calypso into this team. Do they perform better?
No.
No, I don't think they
No, they
perform
don't.
better. So that is if you do get rid of Shinobi, you've got to pass the IGLing over to somebody else who I don't know who it would really be. You've probably got to shuffle the roles around. You have to find a style that actually works for your team when you have Relics who can only play Raze and Mitch who can only really play Killjoy. So how are you finding a style that works for your team when you're that limited? I do not know. And then you're trying to make it work. I've just found this clip from Poised, which there's no point showing on stream because it's just him kind of mumbling this out and you wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. But he's basically talking about himself trying to find a team. And he's like, damn, I didn't even know that Shinobi got cut from Cloud9. I should have got in touch with them earlier. And then he talks to his chat a little bit, and then he's like, yeah, no, they already found a fifth. I got in touch with them yesterday, and it's way too late. But damn, I didn't even realize Shinobi got cut. And like that clip is now fucking getting circulated around as being like, oh shit, because no one knew that Shinobi had been cut. I mean, we don't know for sure anyway, but Poised is saying it as if he got in touch with the organization, and and apparently Cloud9 had found a fifth. So
yeah.
Wait and see.
Well, I don't know any in-game leaders that are on the market, but
No. I mean, even if you theorize, if we run through the thought experiment of Profi, because that was who Reddit was leaking that he had been trialing for them at least. If they did sign Profi, presumably that's in this overall, and Vice goes back over to play Sentinel for them. And then Mitch is on... duelist and
like Mitch on
Relics
Jett.
goes back to Omen?
I know, it's just, it doesn't make
A little odd.
any
It's a little odd.
sense.
Doesn't inspire you with confidence, does
And
it?
then who's the leader? Relics?
Relics,
Vice?
maybe? I don't know. I don't know who else IGL's for that team.
Yeah,
and I don't know why
I don't
they
know.
would. I don't know how that makes them look better. Relics didn't look comfortable when he was playing smokes in the past for them. He's absolutely had his best games on Rays.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mitch on smokes?
Okay, so Cloud9 might be sinking.
Fuck
What else?
Before we go on, I have to pee so bad. I have to pee so
Yeah,
bad.
go on then.
I need to go pee.
Why did you need to interrupt us? You could have just left.
He's kept his headset as well, so he's going to continue talking
I
and
don't know.
listening.
I didn't think you cut this part of the video or not, so I came back. So I don't know what happened. So I'm just
Oh,
like,
we're not gonna cut it. We're gonna-
I'm going to go piss. So
We're gonna keep going.
Well,
Oh, it's
are there any
wonderful.
like really quick, Kurt, could you just bring up the list for NA? I just want to see that like 10th to like 15th spot. Just see if there were any teams that we weren't or I wasn't remembering off the top of my head. Like who do we have? Oh yeah, Moon Raccoons are there. I mean,
Yeah.
Lord knows what's going to happen with them. They might get
Anbox are
picked
another
apart.
team that didn't actually make it to first strike that you could see like, do Anbox want to make some roster changes? I don't think Anbox
I don't
should.
think so.
I think Anbox had some extreme mitigating circumstances, and I think Anbox are a top 8 team.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Moon Raccoons don't just get picked apart.
Dignitas.
but-
Tell you what, Dignitas
Yeah.
are a good choice for
That
this.
is a good one. I think they
because
should make a change.
underperformed. Sam had to move over to Reina.
Which why don't like that.
Yeah. Odorous
didn't
wasn't
like
really
it.
performing.
Yeah, Dignitas.
Maka is great though. Maka is
Maka's
a
great.
talent.
He's excellent. But yeah, that is a team that I could see them trying to make changes.
Did you mention
And-
NRG? I zoned out.
Oh, well, we didn't
NRG, good
talk about
point.
NRG last week, but they played that Nerd Street Monthly, which is like a hard tier 2 tournament.
Yeah.
Except for Anbox just played and won because they couldn't play with Poach in First Strike.
Hmm.
But they played with Shanks on Duelist and moved Kohler back to Cypher.
Yeah.
And they lost to just two who knows teams that we haven't seen before. I mean, well, they lost to Spot Up, but the first team they lost to, I've never seen this team play before. And they,
What about Space Station, by the way?
Base station.
Space Station Gaming with Boostio.
I mean, what would
those are the kind of tier of teams where I'm like,
I don't think you
maybe
touch
they
them,
make
right?
changes, but
No.
maybe they make changes, but also who knows?
Yeah.
Would you
what
put them in
hell's
the
happening
Would you
down
put
at
them in
that
the
level?
N-box? Would you put them in the N-box tier though?
No,
No.
No.
I wouldn't. No, not personally.
But
I think they've got some good players though, and I think they should probably stick to their core because they look like they're dangerous. But if they can make one change that they feel makes them better, I don't know who that would be. I don't profess to be an expert on them, but I could see that being that kind of team. Like they're on the come up, whereas I feel like Unbox have already up and come.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. With NRG, I understand that getting Shanks is another suits move. Absolutely. I can't imagine.
You
that,
think?
Yeah. Why would? Didn't Kohler say I want to play Duelist? I'm playing Duelist. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go play Cypher again.
Yeah, but
that
the thing
strikes
is,
me.
Kohler-
That strikes me as the NRG fucking suits boardroom clout machine decided, let's get Shanks. He's getting viewers. He did well with Immortals. Stick him in the team. Here we go. That's what it reads like
Shanks
to me.
genuinely is one of the best free
He is
agents
good.
available.
Oh
if
yeah,
you're
he's a
looking for
great
duelist.
free agent. But is he what NRG need?
No, I don't think so.
They need an Effies. They don't need a duelist. They have Kohler already. They don't need Kohler
Yeah.
on Cypher.
But the thing with Kohler is that he wasn't playing smart on the duelist. Like his mechanics are incredible, but he needs either more time or some a coach or an IGL that's going to use him better. But I think it's a matter of experience too. Like his mechanics are really good, but he's just not. The timing on his peaks and like the plays that he goes for are not as intelligent as other duelists. So
Yeah.
he's not maximizing his own kit. He's not getting the most out of himself.
I think they should. I think they should stick with Effies and have continued with that because they clearly improved when he was on the team. I think they could have
this-
just stuck with that and tried to improve from there.
This topic is one that we can absolutely discuss next week as well, because
Yeah,
presumably
sure.
there's going to be
Yeah.
some changes being made to some of the teams that were going to be announced. And
Yeah.
the only thing we're going to be having to discuss is probably the JBL tournament, which, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe we
I
get
see.
a player on from First Strike as well next week
Could do. Yeah,
for like an interview or something.
kick me out.
No, I just mean for
give me
a
a-
small
no, give me a
interview
little
point.
day
No,
off,
it's gonna kick me out actually because I'm the new guy on the block. Little Avast here, hopping into Plat Chat. So it's
You can
gonna
have
be
my.
me.
You can have. Listen, I wouldn't mind a little day off. You know, a little lion.
Who could possibly do the same hosting job that you do?
Fucking anyone.
None of us are qualified.
Cleverbot, the AI could. It's like, mate, it's not difficult. I just kind of say, so.
I wonder, like, what if you do AI dungeon as well? It's like you come across 2 purple keycaps. What do you do? What do you do?
That's a little niche reference. Anyone who's watched
That
the
is.
Sideshow companion streams at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. You put in a little skin review.
Oh,
Did you want to talk about the skins and his
No,
skins?
Kurt and I were talking about this because we had a couple funny segments like early on in the Plat Chat Valorant lore where we would talk about the new skins that got released. So I just threw in at the end, give me the skin review. And I was reminded of it because when we played Valorant yesterday, you went to the you went to the store and said like, "What the fuck are these skins?"
Yeah.
So it reminded me that we should throw in the skin review.
The sensation
Yeah, that's what
collection.
the people really want. Yes,
Dude,
the
look at this.
sensation
Josh,
collection.
you described it like a condom advert.
Yeah, I thought it was a condom ad. It looks like a condom ad.
Boy, wait.
When you look at it in the store and they have like the spiraling things around the guns and it's all bright colors, I really thought it would just say underneath "ribbed for her pleasure."
Oh fuck! Yeah, look at this.
Yeah, I mean,
This doesn't scream condoms to me. This screams like 5 gum or something.
gum,
It's
eh?
like something, or like
Guava
Fanta.
smoothie. Yeah,
You know? Yeah. Something that's like very tropical and juicy. You know?
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
This
we
is
have different condom
screaming
ads in the
guava.
UK, but in the UK
Well, I
that
mean,
is like a
I
common
guess
thing.
So maybe I guess
The thing is,
so.
because the UK normally is like it's very grayscale.
Yeah.
We only have grey skies, concrete, and rain. So
and you know what it is specifically as well? When you go into really run-down male bathrooms in like some public sports area, and the only color in the entire bathroom is this big fucking condom dispenser on the wall that's just lit up with colors exactly like that.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
see, this
absolutely.
It's a UK
This is a
thing,
deep cut
presumably.
for the lads.
Yeah.
For what?
Do they-
For what? Why?
It's a
Why do they
UK
choose to
train station
display
public
them
bathroom.
so brightly and with so much effervescence? You know, to the
To
condoms?
draw your attention and make you feel like you're a fucking Chad. Like, oh yeah, I'm definitely fucking tonight. Let's pour some pounds into this condom.
There's
machine.
no
Pour
way
some
the
pounds.
margins on the condom machines have to be that high, right? Like there's or I guess the margins are so slim that they're desperate to get the fucking people to go buy them.
You'd be
I'm not gonna-
surprised. I mean, you'd be surprised.
Condoms to me are sort of like, it's not like some sort of like spur of the moment luxury purchase. You or you don't. You know, like you're not just like, you know what am I running out? What am I running low on today? You know, some chips, condoms, and like, it's like to me, like I don't feel like it's like a spur of the moment thing. It's sort of you get them when you need them. So that marketing strategy doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Well, we could dig into this all day long. I mean, the skins, they look. I wouldn't buy them. Just my take. You know.
Yeah, are we giving them a buy or a skip?
I would skip them.
I think I'm not going to be purchasing these.
You might buy it for
I'm going to pay for food.
Yeah.
What are their
instead.
do we have any looks of what like the animations for them are like? Do they have any like crazy
No,
animations?
it's very basic.
No.
It's like the lowest tier of skins.
Yeah.
Okay, well then yeah. Well, I mean that's
In terms of the
I
rarity.
downvote.
Okay.
Downvote that.
The final segment is something I've been looking forward to for a very long time because we've got some special treats lined up.
go.
Now, this has been gassed up in our household for fucking weeks now.
I don't know about that.
That Kurt and Wyatt were going to be recording something. They're going to be buying something. I don't know what the fuck they've been doing. I remember they were like, "Oh, we're going to be recording soon." So I was like, "Okay, I'll go upstairs," and I just hear laughter for 3 hours straight downstairs, and I'm like, "What the fuck could they be doing?" So I guess we run it. Wyatt's Player of the Week.
All right. Weekly award.
Let's see it.
We can start. Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Kurt, run the tape and get me the thing. Oh, hey there. It's Wyatt's Weekly Award.
What? Is this the intro? Oh,
You made a trophy!
Yeah.
Wow.
Bring me the
Let's
trophy.
see it.
You've bought an actual trophy?
Yeah. So we have
it's so
here we have
good.
the trophy, Wyatt's weekly award. Yeah,
Now,
we can zoom
is
in on
that
it.
supposed to be? Who's
It's-
the man on the trophy? Who's the
it's
man?
sort
Is
of
that
like-
you?
Yeah, I suppose it could be me as like the CEO. There, you take
It's,
it.
it's
He-
focused on the telephone behind.
He's kind of
wow.
a gangly, lanky sort of dude, but he's also got those big bullish shoulders like yourself. So I could see it happening.
So
Oh, it says Wyatt's
Yep.
weekly
Says Wyatt's
award.
weekly
at the
award.
it
bottom.
says Wyatt's weekly award
Wow.
on it.
Oh
You
my
guys-
god, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You guys went move over Critical Role. Fucking, we went all out for this one.
I cannot believe you bought a trophy
Yeah.
engraved with Wyatt's weekly award.
Yep. So
That's amazing.
Listen,
Who's getting it?
we're taking the production value up a notch. We mentioned him earlier on the show, and he deserves to be mentioned twice. This week's award goes to Steel from 100 Thieves. I simply had to. Steel is
Good choice.
Steel is my NA First Strike MVP. He is just unbelievable at so many aspects of the game. Not only his actual ability to get incredibly pivotal impact frags during rounds, which he does time and time again, and not just through having solid aim, but his utility usage is just next level. His use of the cages on Cypher to just trick opponents into taking these disadvantageous fights against him, where he'll just rack up these crucial kills. It's genuinely such good play, and especially from a player who's relatively newer to competitive Valorant compared to some of his other CSGO counterparts. His utility game sense is just truly on another level. And aside from just that, coming into 100 Thieves, his ability to make the players around him better, to get more out of them, is unparalleled. I think that you saw a better game or a better tournament from Asuna than you've seen before, and I do attribute some of that to Steel. This is something that, and it's hard not to because it's something that he's done so many times before in CS, just elevating the play of the people around him while being this intelligent leader. And for that, and for winning First Strike NA after playing the game competitively for 2 months, you just have to give it to Steel. So that is why Steel is the recipient of the first Wyatt's Weekly Award trophy.
Wow.
But not the I was going to say the first award, not true, but the first trophy.
Are you gonna send it to him, or is
Yeah,
that the
sure.
only one in existence?
I'll mail
Do you
it
want
to
to
him.
steal?
No, we
Do you
ordered.
wanna send
We
it-
got
do you wanna
600.
Do a trophy ceremony, send it to the 100 Thieves like Cash App compound, and like the trophy rolls up, and then represents it to him.
Move
And
that
he's like-
First Strike trophy aside. I'll
he
send
picks
this
it up and
sucker
he's like,
over for the
"Who
photo
fuck
shoot.
is Wyatt?"
And then by the time it got shipped to him, it would be time for him to send it to somebody else for the next recipient anyway. The trophy just waddles its way around the earth.
I couldn't get over how meaty the like clap soundbite was.
Oh, yeah.
When you slapping the trophy, it was such a meaty clap.
That's
that you
incredible.
Had.
That is
nice.
so good. Also, I think I made this comment when I was doing the companion stream as well, but Steel seems to, I think part of the reason that Steel has been able to develop these players is because he speaks Zoomer. He understands human beings and he's able to communicate to other people in order to get the value out of them. The way the tweet that Asuna put out about the way he thinks about being a duelist is just pure anime. And I'm convinced that Steel has taught him this. Like, he's just tapped into Asuna's brain and got the only thing this guy understands is anime. I must explain the entirety of Valorant to him in anime talk. And then Asuna's Twitter, where he's talking about giving his life for the boomers on his team. He's convinced Asuna that he is an anime protagonist. And
Are you saying Steel has radicalized Asuna?
Yeah, and Asuna genuinely thinks that he is a protagonist and his job is to make space for and protect the boomers on his team. They've set up such a wonderful narrative in Asuna's head that he's managed. Steel has single-handedly managed to turn Asuna into an incredibly better player just by changing the way he thinks about the game.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Well, That was magical. From top to
was.
bottom, really. I like you can see where it's been casted in plastic. The mold is the
Solid
plastic
gold,
mold.
solid gold.
Okay, sorry.
Solid
Solid gold.
I thought this award might be going to Lowell this week since you were inspired to play Sage
Yeah.
because of him.
No, that I was considering.
If
Lowell,
I
but
had a weekly award, I'd give it to Lowell. But
Well,
I
you
think
don't.
Steel's good.
You
Yeah.
don't,
I don't
do
Have a
you?
weekly award.
I don't. So, but that's
Maybe we'll do. We've got Wyatt's weekly. Maybe we'll do Avast's annual award.
once
And it'll
a
be
year.
once a year, enormous thing.
The pressure would be insane. though,
Yeah,
for
we
the-
have
the
Wyatt's
weekly
weekly,
award.
Bren's bi-monthly, and Avast's annual award.
Well, what do we have for sideshows?
Just
Shows seasonally, you get 4 awards a
seasonal.
year.
Not bad. Not bad.
Ooh. Okay, well, time to end it, my little friend. Let's put a finish, a little stopgap to this episode. Thanks for watching. If you made it to this point, congratulations. You are one of the 1%. Leave a comment saying what hairstyle you want Josh to go for next as he's growing back his hair. So you can decide it. If you want it to be bald again, he'll do it. For the highest rated comment, he'll do it. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Make
won't
sure
do
you
it.
tell your grandparents about our show as well. And
They'll love it.
we'll see you guys next week.